Boom, boom, boom. We are live. Damon, thank you so much for getting on this long form conversation, man. Like, we're friends, we're good friends, but I didn't know actually until I just Googled you just for the fun of it. And I just realized that you've written like how many books? Five?
5, yeah.
Five. Well, let me check it out. Yeah. So, right, it's Understanding Spirituality, Anomalous Phenomena as Life Lessons.
Uh-huh.
The Amazon is Burning. So you have two volumes of that, right?
Yeah, the understanding spirituality, yeah.
Amazonia's mystical and legendary creatures, and then the last one you published this year, last year, right?
Yeah,
Lokono-Arawaks.
right.
Man, like that's good because all these out of the five, four of them were written in 2019, was it?
He actually no, they were all done in the. I think I started some before, yeah, 2019, and finished a few of them in the first lockdown on my island, which started like March last year.
Yeah.
So I have lots of free time.
Okay. Yeah. So known you for a very long time, but yeah, these books definitely want to talk a little bit about the books because um, in terms of spirituality, we have not talked too much about that, by the way, between you and me. We talk a lot about um, yeah, indigenous rights, advocacy, um, yeah, everything else. The work that you do, you being an ambassador, which I also want to talk to you a little bit about. And but the spiritual side of Damon is something that we did not have not talked about at length as much as
Mm.
we have talked about the other stuff. Um, why is that? You think? No.
Well, I guess we so caught up and busy in the real life scenarios and problems that kind of take us back seat to the immediate concerns as more of a private, personal kind of conversation. It's
Yeah.
not something that too many people would, on the same playing field on that one.
Because I don't know. Like it's when it comes to when it comes to spirituality and everything that comes with it, I am hesitant to talk about it with people because people have different views about it, about yeah, all the aspects of it. So I think I'm just going to um, yeah, just ask. I'm just going to ask away and just kind of trying to learn from
Mm.
you on this topic. Uh, um, yeah, just because I would love to hear your perspective on it. So when it comes to spirituality, because you've written a lot of books about it, like yeah, what do you think? How do you think about that spirituality, especially in like in times like COVID, where people or where we're living in right now?
Right. Yeah. Well, first thing is everyone needs to understand that religion and spirituality are two entirely different things. Religion is man-made, and spirituality is something you're born with. It's in your DNA. It's just whether you ever get around to unlocking it or not. That's
Mhm.
the only real difference. But if you're depending on other mortal, flawed human beings to guide you, towards a higher spiritual understanding, you're only going to get so far. You need to go beyond that, beyond anything that falls within the parameters of constructs of man, and more look to things that are done by the creator. Like, for example, a lot of Christians are familiar with Jesus giving his sermons out in nature, in the field, in a olive grove, something surrounded by nature. Only when he was 12 did he, speak at a lectern inside of a building made by men, when he
Mhm.
astounded the elders. So I mean that, and Buddha again, and all the prophets of God, really, all the holy messengers, they would rather impart spiritual knowledge surrounded by nature never from inside of any building constructed by the hands of men. So you need to not look at nature as being something foreign or inferior to human civilization, but as actually being spiritually superior to anything that man can do. And when we stop having this top-down pyramidal scheme kind of view of the natural world, where we're at the apex as human beings and everything else is less value than us, then you could start to develop that innate spirituality that you were born with. But as long as you belong to some patriarchal religion and you feel that man is superior to woman and man is the head of the home, or whatever he says goes, everybody else has to obey and go forth, conquer and subdue nature and all this nonsense that we see in a lot of the man-made religions. We need to move beyond that as a species. I mean, after thousands of years, we still believe in some ancient crap when you really examine it. It's not, I don't want to go out of my way to insult anybody, but it means it has to reach a point where we have to, look at the world with a different lens, and a more natural lens. Stop seeing us as being separate and superior to the natural world, and start to realize that we're all connected. We are part and parcel of the natural world, and if anything, we should view ourselves as custodians of it, not as dominators of it. And that's where the downfall of man versus the natural world, I think, has origins in that kind of superiority complex, where you feel that only human life is worth anything, everything else is a commodity to be bought, so destroy that will. That has led to almost all the problems in the world, I think, when you trace them back to the root source.
Yeah. So where do you think that we went wrong? Like the world went into the wrong direction. Do you have an idea of when we can pinpoint that?
When we started to depend on other human beings to guide us in life instead of depending on ourselves and our own interactions. Like, for example, indigenous spirituality, there are no proselytizing going on, there's no evangelization. One tribe doesn't go and say, hey, this is our view of spirituality, let's go and force our neighbors to adopt our view because we believe our view is the right one and they obviously are not our view, so they must be wrong. You don't get that. Everybody respects that everyone else has their own spirituality tailored to them and their circumstances and times in which they live. I mean, there are universal truths, and all the wise teachers have imparted that, whether they be Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, doesn't matter. But you basically you treat other human beings the exact same way you would like people to treat you. It's nothing more simple than that. So unless you want people to lie to you, steal from you, beat your daughters or your sister because she's their spouse and is their property, unless you want that to happen to you, why do you do that? Why do you treat other people like that? So if everyone would just live by that simple golden rule, there really would be no need for organized religion. And think about what you're going to do before you do it. And if it was done to you, would you like it, appreciate it, welcome it? If not, then it can't be right. So don't treat other people anyway differently than you would want them to treat you. As so fundamental and so common sense, but yet it's, I don't know, seems to go over the head of a lot of people.
I think I heard a conversation once, and it was I can't remember where it was, but I was listening into the conversation, and one thing that stood out, because it was also talking about religion, and it was indigenous people talking amongst each other, and someone said religions are aggressive, as it is people that are religious in a way that always want to impose their religion upon you. And I thought that was quite an intriguing way of looking at things, at religion, as an aggressive thing, whereas it always, every religion, it tries to evangelize as like peace and prosperity, but the looking at it as an aggressive thing it was something I haven't heard before.
Hmm.
Is it, how do you look at it? Do you think it's religion in by spec? Is religion by spec a aggressive something aggressive?
Well, if you want to compare religion with spirituality, then yeah, the contrast is so stark because no spiritual person tries to evangelize and is I'm on this journey and I recognize that there are others way ahead of me and there are others way behind me. And if I can, I want to bring people up to where I'm at, and I'd hope that people who are ahead of me bring me up to where they're at. So I'm not going to punish anybody for not being on my wavelength or my level of understanding. And we all have our own paths to walk, many lives to live. So that the whole notion that what I believe is right, and therefore anybody who doesn't believe what I believe is wrong, and I have to save them by forcing them to see my truth and live my truth, accept my truth. That you're starting off actually deceiving yourself and others when you launch into that modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
So that yeah, and even the whole concept, instead of understanding that creator, God, whatever you want to call it, is a genderless conscious energy entity. God is not the father or the mother or anything like that. Those biological distinctions only exist in the five senses perception of reality we call the physical world. In the spirit world, there's no male and female. It's conscious energy. We are already immortal. So another problem too with religion, with spirituality, does not impart on you from childhood is fear. And if you look at it, all religions basically are fear based. Not Buddhism may be the kind of the exception to the general rule of man-made religions, because if you look at the roots of all these things, people like to say, I'm a God-fearing Christian, or for example, and I ask them, well, why would you fear, the Creator, who all the prophets have said loves us more than our earthly mother and father? I do not fear my earthly mother and father, so why should I fear something that's even more loving and merciful and forgiving and accepting? Why would I fear the Creator? That doesn't make sense. But then if you fear God, you end up doing good things, not because you just enjoy doing what's right, but because you either want a reward in the afterlife for doing these good things and not a punishment, or you're terrified that if you don't do these good things, that a punishment awaits you. So any way you cut it is still fear-based. That's what's dominating your subconscious. And so that is a problem too. If you truly have love in your heart and an understanding, the acceptance of the divine macro consciousness, you're not going to have any fear within you. Though fear, and another thing a lot of religions want to say, oh, God is a God he's a jealous God, the God of wrath, the God of anger, and you have to do this and do that, or torment you for eternity in a lake of fire. How could any supreme, holy, loving being, exhibit those kind of traits? That sounds more like human beings over time have misinterpreted a higher consciousness on the level of a lower mortal man's way of thinking, where, I'm going to use force to get these people to do what's right. And so therefore, if I think that way, then the creator who made me must also personify this kind of worldviews, but they're lower vibrational ways of thinking. Anger, jealousy, hate, fear, all of that is unholy. So a perfect holy being cannot exhibit those traits. Those are traits that we see in every human being to greater or lesser degrees. But I'm not going to be so silly as to, project my own understanding of human flaws onto the supreme being that created all living things. Now that to me that is nonsense. But yet that is a foundation of quite a lot of religious beliefs. Where
Yeah.
even the creator itself is seen as a masculine entity and not a loving, super consciousness that has no gender. How do you think that makes little girls that feel you're growing up and all your life subconsciously they will develop an inferiority complex? Because if I'm a girl and every time I go to my religion, I'm hearing about a male prophet said this and that, And then I hear God being referred to as the Father, so that's another male figure. So what? The only females that I ever hear about are what? Mary and others who give birth to the prophet. So the only important role for a female in the universe is to give birth, then to be a mother. Why are there women prophets that are speaking to us too? Don't tell me they don't exist. We all have had grandmothers. Our grandmothers imparted tons of wisdom to us, sometimes as if not as much as more than our grandfathers did, because they were the ones that had the children around them and passing on the traditions. So you can't tell me that there were not just as many female human prophets of God on the face of the earth, that they were just a bunch of famous men only. So I believe that because of ego and this patriarchal system of seeing man is worth more than woman, and I believe all that there's been lots of wisdom and knowledge that were lost or hidden, deliberately hidden from us, because it didn't want to have the true spiritual equality of the sexes on the earth. They had one group, and in that case, the one gender, male gender, has dominated the female gender for basically all of known history. And men don't seem to want to relinquish that power trip hold that they have over womankind. And that's because it's religious, and ego feeds into that. Spirituality would never lead you to jump to that conclusion or want to live that kind of, you will see everything as being your equal. So how could you want to dominate your wife? She's your partner. Two of you raise your family together. How could she be inferior to me? And in my own tribe, actually, women are spiritually superior to men. Men do all the dirty work. You would never ask a woman or expect a woman to pick up garbage or to clean the guts of an animal that the men hunted. Women don't even hunt. Men do that. Killing other life forms is dirty work, so only we do that. The only living thing that females may take the life of is fish, and because fish are in the water, and so that is some kind of spiritual connection between how they have the baby in their body and surrounded by water, and that's the only living thing that they can to hunt on their own basically is fish. But any terrestrial or aerial thing, that's a taboo for a woman to kill that. So a man has to do that dirty work. Defending the tribe in war times, killing other human beings, that's dirty work. Men are expected to do that. I mean, a mother defending her kids, yes, she has a right to use lethal force too, but you would not send a woman to war or constrict them to fight in defense of the tribe. If they're so motivated and they want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But it would be a sin in the tribe from a spiritual standpoint to compel a woman to do anything that is beneath her spiritual dignity. So we have a whole different concept. That's why American feminism, for example, would never take root in my tribe, because this whole thing about anything a man could do, a woman could do better, and why would a woman want to be like a man? We are spiritually inferior to women, so for a woman to want to be our equal would actually be a downgrade, not an upgrade. So it's unlike the Western world where they focus on voting rights and these sorts of things. But from a spiritual standpoint, we men in our tribe, we know that we are inferior to our women because they exhibit such traits and qualities, and we see them as co-creators with God, in the sense that they bring life into the world. If you want your crops to be successful, it's better that a woman plant the seeds, not a man. A man can harvest the crops, but anything to do with generating life, a woman takes the Nobel Prize any day over a man. I think if we had more female political leaders in the world, that actually the world wouldn't be as messed up as it is. But it's because too much testosterone, too much patriarchal thinking, too much male ego, and always looking for a fight with somebody somewhere all the damn time. Women are more level-headed, common sense, laid back. Let's find a peaceful solution to this problem instead of obliterating each other. So the world would be a better place if women had more authority, I think. And that's why the traditional societies are generally matriarchal. Not that women dominated and ruled men, but women were given the respect that they deserve. And they respected themselves too. So those are the big difference between indigenous societies and non-indigenous societies, I think.
Yeah. what I do see though is that there's an increase saying, and it's kind of difficult to talk about it because I'm male. So I get the feeling that every time that I wanted to shape an opinion about it, that I have to walk on eggshells because I don't know what it is actually. Like there are different views of what feminism is. You talked about American feminism,
Yeah.
but it is. Explain to me what American feminism is and how. If what do you think about, or how do you explain it having a more impact, not impact, but that it is becoming. Indigenous women are for more and more starting to embrace that that movement or that label.
It could be the westernization of the educational system for all we know. But I mean, the situation is different. As they say in my tribe, women and men know that females are spiritually superior. So a woman does not want to be equal to a man, at least not in spiritual sense. We already agree and say, yes, if it's when it comes to payment, the wages for labor, yes, it should be the same for male or female. That's not an issue. But within indigenous traditional societies, there are gender roles, as I say. Whereas American feminists would say, no, everything a man does, a woman should do too. But because they're seeing it more from a human rights and equality sexist standpoint and not spiritual standpoint. Because spiritually, women in the tribe don't want to do the dirty work that the men do. Digging graves, all that sort of stuff. My mother-in-law could not even come to the grave site when I was digging the grave, and I'm just her son-in-law. I was with her father-in-law and my other brothers-in-law, and we dug the grave for when one of her older sons, that was my best friend, when he died. But the women in the family could not come anywhere near the grave site until the body was ready to be lowered. Then they could come and pay their last respects. So Western feminists, that's an outrage, women just have every right to be there, dig the grave if they want to with the men, and we do have our own spirituality and our own gender roles and certain things that our society is different. It's based on spirituality. It's not based on this need to compete at every twist and turn with the opposite gender. I can understand where that came from, because I mean, women were grossly disrespected in most Western societies. They weren't even allowed to vote, and they didn't have an equal rights with the male. So from a legal standpoint, so they had to take this aggressive stance to get justice. But in our indigenous societies, that was not the issue or the problem. So the attraction to that cause, at least up to now, for my people and all the other Amazonian tribes I know, is not like it's just it's a curious thing then, but it's not something that women think is a great movement that we need to adopt. They understand that, for those people over there, women were really battered and oppressed, so they had to be more militant and take on that kind of worldview and outlook. But it is not a necessity in our societies, so the attraction is not there for it. The recognition of the reasons, the whys and wherefores for it exists, but it is not something that you can relate to on a personal level, except for communities that have lost the traditional cosmovision and have become westernized or semi-westernized, where then you have drunken husbands coming home and beating their wives, and that kind of foreign nonsense occurring in the indigenous societies. Well, then yes, then a Western style feminism becomes attractive, because the problems are starting to become similar. But in societies that are still holding on to traditional values, there is no reason for it, because the problems are not there. Similar problems don't exist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I'm a topic to talk about, to listen to, and I'm just trying to find my bearings around it actually, because it is almost it makes you feel a little bit like ashamed of being masculine in a way. At least some people they it can have that effect. And I can imagine that there are guys out there that are ashamed of showing their masculinity because it's, or that their masculinity is being misinterpreted. That could be also a thing, that's just being themselves but are confident,
Right.
and that can be mistaken for a patriarchal mindset or state of mind. I don't know. I think it's kind of it feels so unnatural to me, at least, to engage in such a dialogue, or as it's a dialogue that that I have to walk on. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells.
Well, especially if you're trying to have that conversation with urban non-indigenous peoples, you could easily be misinterpreted as being misogynist or whatever. And there is a trend to kind of blame and shame anybody that doesn't have a trendy opinion or position on any politically correct subject or agenda or whatever. So for me personally, I don't care about who agrees or disagrees with me, or who is offended or who supports what I say. I speak the truth that I know for myself in my own personal context, and and that's that. But if you worry about offending, there'd always be someone somewhere who is offended by something you say or do. So if you worry about those people, you'll basically put yourself in a mental straitjacket 24/7. So just just live your life, and as you say, whatever. Well, speak your truth, and if you don't understand something, always seek a better understanding. It may seem to be a comprehensive position that you have right now, but then always be open to other points of view and other ways of seeing things, but not just across the board generally. Because if you want to develop spiritually, you're not going to learn anything from people who are not spiritual. So the arguments they're going to throw at you is not going to enlighten you in any way. It's just going to drag you into tit for tat, and the whole. There are people there who just get a high off of creating unnecessary drama. So there are some people that is not worth your while to talk to. But if you think this is a calm-minded person and I could possibly learn something beneficial from them, well, yeah, keep your company as much as possible. But when you realize that there are people who are just they're not really listening to you, they're just waiting for their turn to talk. Those people, you're wasting your time. You're not going to learn anything from those people, because they are convinced that they know it all, and unless you share their worldview, they're always going to be on that confrontational approach towards you. So you just have to learn who your time is going to be well spent talking to, and who is a waste of your time to engage in any kind of discussions with.
Yeah, I think I think if you're listening to respond instead of listening to understand actually where someone else comes from, like I think that there's a little bit of like an asshole. Seriously, like and across all genders, and like that, it's kind of an asshole attitude actually to engaging in such a conversation, because like once you, and I've had this problem myself as well, that for a very long time, like when I was in a conversation or listening or participating in a conversation, that when I had something in my mind, all right, this is how I want to respond, or this is what I want to say, I just stopped listening. I just stopped listening. I just was waiting for
Your turn.
to for my rebuttal, like, so like,
Right.
oh yeah, by the way, this is how I think about it.
Mhm.
But like, it is such a seriously, I think like it's an asshole way of communicating.
Oh, hold on a sec, bro.
Yeah,
Hold on.
go ahead. While we're looking, what am I looking at actually in the back? This is a secret stash of. Yeah. Oh,
Battery is about to die on me.
You what? Your laptop or your?
Yeah, laptop.
So we're about to end the conversation like 30 minutes in. Thank you so much. See you next time, man. When you stood up, I was looking behind you, like, what is that? What are you?
Well, that's some of the end. Remember, we're the first ones, indigenous people, to produce organic aloe-based, commercially available products. There's the hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
So this is what I do: 1 gallon bottles. And then
okay.
Then there is smaller 9-ounce bottles, more personal size. But we also have created a paste, antiseptic organic aloe paste. I wonder if I could.
Eagle Clan Arawaks. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so more or less made the clan name a brand name, because these are all products that the proceeds of that are going to go towards doing projects for the community. So why not name it after the tribe? Because it's going to benefit the tribe, the clan of the tribe. But yeah,
how did you come up with the whole idea of creating your own antiseptic?
Well, actually, when my dad died on the 28th of February last year, COVID was now spreading worldwide, but it had not been reaching my island yet, and so we weren't in lockdown. About a month later, it did end up reaching here, and we went into lockdown. And so I was unemployed. I think all but one of my 3 older kids were working, and 2 of them were unemployed too. And so, kind of hit financial hard times here. And my elder brother just said to me one day, well, look, WHO has some recipes on how, because sanitizer, what spurred it all was the imported sanitizers run out. It sold out on the supermarket shelves and store shelves here. So there was a shortage of it. And my eldest brother, Russell, suggested to me, well, why don't you try to make something with our local aloe vera barbadensis? And I know spiritually, the aloe vera is a sacred plant for physical healing. It is not. It's not like for like a mushroom for mental or spiritual healing, but for physical healing, aloe is sacred. And so I say, you know what? Let me check the WHO proportions and recipes, because I had to have surgical alcohol, a certain percentage to be effective against COVID. And so played around with, tried different things until we found the winning formula. And yeah, really works well as an excellent organic product. But then as a byproduct of that, the paste, because when you strain it, because people originally had it very thick, and people asked for it to be strained so they could go in those liquid sanitizer dispensers without clogging the straw. So we have to strain the product, and by straining it, then you had a lot of aloe pith. And I say, well, I don't want to just dump this. It must be good for something. And so then started to experiment with it, and like any cuts or abrasions that don't require stitches, if you put that aloe paste on it, literally the healing is twice as fast as if you didn't use the paste. Burns, even skin fungus. We put it on skin fungus, and within 3 days the skin fungus had died. So it seems to have quite a lot of topical uses and benefits. So then we created the organic aloe paste as well as a byproduct of the sanitizer. So we have those two products commercially available, and still so far, because I was on a FAO webinar, we're the only indigenous people worldwide to have that organic aloe based products commercially available, the sanitizer and the antiseptic paste. So I feel proud about that as coming out of the COVID lockdown and trying to find solutions to our financial problems, but as well, using stuff in the environment and basically made constructive use of the time and came up with a good product instead of
Yeah.
throwing your hands in the air and saying, "Oh, woe is me, let me go and collect my government assistance and just live off of the food stamps or whatever." No, it's try to be more constructive and do something that will be beneficial not just to you, but to the wider world. With the time
Yeah.
that you have on your hands, instead
And
of feeling sorry for yourself.
I'm just looking at the WHO website. It's a 9-page document. I didn't know they had this. So you can basically make your own hand sanitizer sanctioned by the WHO. This is crazy. Okay. So, but yeah, I can make anything I like. I sucked at chemistry and physics in school. So, well, good for you, man. Yeah, times of adversity, trying to see the positive side of things, or like opportunities. Maybe that's a better word. Opportunities, and then also, so making your own hand sanitizer. So you're selling it on Amazon, Etsy?
No, it's here locally because
Okay.
it's not the aloe is kind of it's not a commodity that you could do thousands of gallons of it. So it's just
Yeah.
enough to satisfy the local organic market. But there are a few people abroad that they want to purchase it because it's a unique product, but also they want to also support indigenous efforts in the tribe. So they'll buy like the paste, which can ship the liquid sanitizer, being as it's classified as a flammable product, being 95% ethyl alcohol as a preservative. That is not allowed to like air parcel post or anything. It has to go by ship. But yeah, the bottles of paste, that 1 9-ounce bottle of paste would last a family a good month or more. So that is what's
Wow.
getting an export market, like mostly Tainos in the USA, because they're aware of Eagle Clan, Arawaks, Lokono, and Taino are very aware of each other. So they're more getting support from that kind of community. But I plan to market it, guest Facebook ads in Europe too, because there are people, a lot of Europeans who like to support grassroots indigenous businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that is good, man. That you. I was about to say, like, when you stood up, like, what the hell is this behind him? Like, it was secret stash of vodka or something, but it's but it's a good thing that you started doing that.
Yeah.
So you think you can continue doing that post COVID?
Yeah, I mean, we will keep, as long as there's a market for it, they will keep manufacturing it.
I think
But
so.
yeah, we
It ain't going nowhere.
never put all your eggs in one basket. Hold on, this light is a little too intense.
Ah,
Yeah.
getting to like mood lighting, candlelight poetry. Okay, no, yeah. So, well, I don't. What do you think? Like, is it to talk about vaccines and all that stuff, and like trying to get out of COVID? Obviously, you want to get out of COVID as soon as possible. What do you think? Are we going to? Is it going to stay here for a lot longer than we anticipate, or is it just going to vanish and hopefully this year? Well, so what do you think about that?
To be honest, only creator knows what's gonna happen with that.
True.
I would like it to be gone as soon as possible, but I'm also skeptical as to the the veracity of the explanations for it that we have so far as well. So let's open-minded about it. Maybe everything they say it is, or it may not be. Just only God really knows.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm actually wondering, like, what Indian peoples around the world are thinking about this. Like, obviously, it has a devastating impact on Indigenous peoples, communities locally, all around the world. Look at like the Navajo Nation, like
Yeah.
it was hotspot. Like I feel very sorry um, for everyone that is really seeing the losses and like how devastating it can be. The strange thing is that conversations that I'm reading, having, that there's this like something like two sides of a story. Like one is yes, the whole COVID-19, and then the other side of it is yeah, I always want to call it tinfoil hats, conspiracy theories, 5G, and everything else. And I think that there's, to a certain extent, to what people are talking about, is it can. I'm not dismissing it because I'm, but there's, well, 5G maybe, but when it comes to like what people are talking about, like the Great Reset and there and all those things. I'm like, there's room for to explore it a little bit more in terms of. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not convinced that this is entirely man-made because there are people out there that say it is, but I do think that there's some people are benefiting from it. In terms of the in terms of the situation, and that is what's I'm concerned about in terms of like the post situation. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. So it's something that I heard hear a lot about anything. So what are you hearing in over there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, well, you're getting all sides of the equation as to what it is or what it could be, this sort of thing. But personally, I am not afraid of getting it or dying from it, so I'm not going to be in the first line rushing to get the vaccine. I want to see, let a year or two pass, and there's no ill effects for the majority of people, then I may or may not be interested. But I certainly don't feel so terrified or threatened that I am anxious to get the vaccine right now. I think it's still early, and I want to wait and see. This thing seems to be mutating and evolving faster than anyone thought. We already have strains that are coming out that the first vaccines are not comprehensive in the fight against. So I want to be in the scenario where you end up getting 5 different vaccines because every few months a worse strain comes out and the first vaccine doesn't work on that anymore. So, but I don't lose. I'm not worried about COVID killing me. So,
you don't think that we're in a Matrix kind of scenario, like a Avatar Matrix kind of scenario? I don't know. Like who knows, who knows, man?
As I say, I would never, for a fact, that all those theories could never be true. I think people would deal in absolutes that they know it all and know it can't be that. That sounds lots of things that sounded ridiculous at one point in time, but turned out to have some truth in them later on. So I just reserving judgment for now. But personally, I'm not panicked by it, and I'm not rushing to get any vaccine because I don't feel it is a threat to me.
Yeah.
Personally, or so that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no. It's thank you for sharing though. Just me thinking out loud actually, and luckily it's not within the UN context because that would definitely get me into trouble, I think. But just trying to learning, thinking out loud, learning in public. I think that's what I'm doing at the moment. It is. I don't know. Like did you? By the way, sidestep. Do you think that it's possible? Something that, as in like the movie Avatar. That's. Do you think something like that is possible? As in interacting. You know what I'm talking about, right? The how do you call it? Like semi being kind of thing. That science fiction kind of a life.
Like transplanting consciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's possible. Yeah, because that in a nutshell, that's basically what reincarnation is. Anyway, is our true immortal conscious energy cells just being inhabiting human body vehicles for a certain period of time. Could be days, months, years, decades, a century, whatever. And then when that vehicle physically dies, then we move on and enter another vehicle and continue our school for the soul learning experience in this dimension or multiverse, whatever it is really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because Art Ghazali or Horila will never live again, Damon Curry will never live again. But
Right.
our true, that's just us, the persona. That's the avatar that we are using right now. But
Yeah.
when our true selves, our consciousness, our soul leaves these vehicles and goes into another body, we'll be known by some other name. We look differently, we live in different circumstances, but who we are essentially, our true selves will continue to exist, just using a good comparison, just using different avatars basically for eternity.
Yeah. Oh.
Because
Okay.
you could never learn everything in one lifetime. Because what about the child that's born and 3 days later or dies a few minutes after birth? What the hell could that soul have possibly learned that was of any kind of comprehensive value within a few seconds or minutes of life? So
Yeah.
obviously you need to come again and again, and to have the full picture. You need to, in one lifetime, you'll be poor, you'll be rich, you'll be tall, you'll be short, you'll be anorexic, you'll be obese. You'll live in Africa, you'll live in Europe, you'll live in Melanesia, you'll live in Micronesia, you'll live in South America, you'll live in North America. You live in the Arctic, you live in the desert. Experience everything that life has to offer, and you'll need
Yeah.
multiple lifetimes to experience all of that.
Okay.
But that's the importance and all the early disciples of Jesus believed in reincarnation. But then the Catholic Church changed those, removed those teachings and brought in their own version of what they wanted people to know.
Hmm.
Jesus himself, he referred to John the Baptist as he is Elijah who was and who has come again. He wasn't known as Elijah, but the soul that inhabited the body of Elijah a few hundred years before came back in the body of John the Baptist. So Jesus himself pointed to that by his own statements.
Hmm.
Well, of course, religion again, man-made religion. If the person who at a certain point in time had control of the religion didn't understand that concept, they literally had the power to change the religious text to suit their worldview and the image they wanted to convey. And so that's why something as silly as people believing that their holy book is the 100% divine and true um, writings of God itself, and there's
Yeah.
nothing in there could be wrong. But they obviously, I don't know, the comprehension skills are not very good, because you could read every holy book and you're going to find discrepancies. Say, hold on a minute, this part here, Moses said to stone your own child to death if he's rude to you. And that if our parents had followed his logic, we would all be dead long ago, because we were all rude to our parents. But
Yeah.
then Jesus came later in the same holy book and said, it is never God's will that a single child should ever be harmed. So you can't believe both.
Hmm.
If you're a Christian, you're supposed to be a follower of Christ, the teachings of Jesus, not the teachings of Moses or anybody else, before or after. But that's the downfall of Christianity, is they want to follow too many different people from that book, and you can't. There'll be those that talk nonsense. Moses did a lot of interesting things, but he was also a more savage-minded person. Look at the kind of punishments that he prescribed. Whereas Jesus was somebody that no sincere, intelligent person has a problem with any of his teachings, because they were
Mm.
so calm and overarching. So we look at it that way. As sometimes you have to ask people, are you a biblican, a follower of the Bible, or are you a Christian, a follower of Christ? If you're a follower of Christ, you would have a better understanding and be more content and tranquil in your life. But when you want to pick and choose which parts you're going to follow and try to incorporate aggression and wrath and anger, and then want to come also and talk about turn the other cheek and love and forgiveness, are you schizophrenic? It's one or the other. You can't believe in turn the other cheek and then believe in stoning people to death for nonsense. So you cannot follow the entire book. You have to realize at which point is truth and at which point is human error, and separate the two. And so that's why I've been saying.
But isn't that hard? I think I can imagine. Like, I think that's the whole problem. Actually, there's a lot of people that are trying to live by the religion, trying to live by the book, and yeah, to have that mindset of this is what the book says, but like that sometimes your own consciousness, your own way of thinking, you have to not take everything literally. I'm sure that I have to like say more nuanced, but yeah, like it's not. I can imagine it's hard for people that to do something like that. That they just go either way. They either just go, they do live by the book, or the holy book, or whatever religion you're subscribe to, or they don't. So there's almost like as if there's no in between, like reading a book and trying to interpret it in your own way, in your own lifetime and everything else. I think it's like.
Right.
Do you think it's? I don't know. Like, what would you say to people that are trying to do it, but like think it's hard to do something like that?
Well, it would be very, very simple if every Christian would just follow the four Gospels, what Jesus is allegedly had to say, because his teachings there do not offend anyone, and they're not promoting any violence or anything like that. So if every Christian would just follow the teachings of Jesus, we literally would not have the kind of problems that we have with Christian denominations doing X, Y, or Z, because it will be streamlined. But the minute you want to be so, and it's the book itself, any honest person could see it contradicts itself. The Old Testament is totally different to the New Testament.
Yeah.
And even so, and then there are people like, I remember when I was a kid and we went to Catholic church regularly every Sunday, and 90% of the time he would be telling me, and the Apostle Paul said this and that and this and that, and I'd like, I want to hear what Jesus had to say. I don't care what Paul had to say. Jesus didn't choose Paul. He came after Jesus and claimed that he had a vision, X, Y, and Z. Even in their own Bible, he changed his story 3 times. He first said there were 2 witnesses to his vision, and then after he said no, it was him alone on the road and nobody else saw it. James, who was a disciple, who was chosen by Jesus, and you can check that in your own Bible, he referred to Paul as being a liar and a deceiver of the faithful. So, I mean, those things they never teach you in Sunday school, but just avoid all the nonsense and other people's opinions and their views coming into your dogma. Just, did Jesus say it? No, he didn't. Well, okay, forget about it then. Try to streamline. If you're a Buddhist, did Buddha say it? No, he didn't. Well, leave that part out. Focus on what Buddha had to say. Same thing in the Quran. Did Muhammad say that? No, it was one of his other followers that said, well, forget him. What did Muhammad say? Because you're going to get different people, different opinions, different. Jesus had long hair. Everybody knows that all Jews in his time, male and female, never cut their hair.
Yeah.
But Paul grew up in a Roman household in Syria, and his hair was cut short, and he wrote that it's a disgrace for a man to have long hair like a woman. So hold on a minute. I'm supposed to believe the Apostle Paul, who said a man with long hair is a disgrace, but yet Jesus said he himself had long hair and he was the Son of God. So there's a discrepancy right there. I raised that in Sunday school, and the priest got very offended. I think I was not allowed to be confirmed. I guess I was unconfirmed then. because I contradicted. Literally, there would be a painting behind the priest of Jesus with long hair, and the priest would be telling us, Paul said it's a disgrace for a man to have long hair like a woman, because he was trying to justify cutting native men's long hair. And I said, excuse me, Father, but right behind you is a painting of Jesus in the same church with long hair. So are you saying Jesus was a disgrace then? Because he was also an indigenous man that belonged to a tribe of people and he had long hair. So he got offended and quiet, but he didn't have an answer to give me. So he just despised me after that day for that. But he couldn't.
Hold on. Jesus was indigenous?
He belonged to the tribe of the Hebrews, remember?
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
oh, what?
Don't forget that. People
Okay.
forget that. Everybody forgets that he was also an indigenous person. And we try to see him in the context of an urban non-indigenous person, but he belonged to the Hebrew tribe. So he was a tribal man himself.
Mm.
Yeah, we lose sight of that. And that's why I personally don't have a problem with him or any of his teachings, but I do have a problem with most of the religions that claim to be following him, but yet do a lot of nonsense or did things like force my people and everyone else, the indigenous peoples, by physically beating you, that you must convert to this faith and you must, kiss the cross and you must do all these things that he never said to do any of that. This is other people putting in man-made dogmas and creating religions are based around his teachings, but really and truly, the things that they're telling you must do, you must come to this building every 7 days. And he never said to do any of that. Literally, Jesus never said any of that. So where did they get this crap from?
Mm.
Man-made religion. And that's my problem is with man-made religion, not with the prophets who inspired other people to create those religions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting way of have never looked at it that way, but well, everything makes sense to me. So it makes. So let's take you back a little bit because you started about talking about this when you brought up reincarnation, right? And I think that is something that especially nowadays, I think what fascinates people a lot, or at least it's on their minds. Reincarnation. Let's unpack that a little bit. Here's a question. In your view, like, what is a soul the same as a spirit?
No. The reason why I say that, from what my understanding of the Holy Trinity is very different to a Catholic's understanding. They think it's Father, Son, Holy Ghost. But my understanding of the real Holy Trinity is your soul, your spirit, and your physical body. The three in one space, in harmony. If ego is dominating, that's sort of working against the soul. So you're gonna have disharmony in the person there. But yeah, the Holy Trinity, as I said, the spirit and the soul are two different things. Now, for example, a lot of people may say, "Oh, that castle is haunted by the spirit of King so and so who was beheaded there 1,000 years ago, or whatever." Or many people I know will know a place where someone has died, and especially if you are empathetic or spiritual person or clairvoyant, you could see, or many people have seen the spirit of that person still in that space, either where they died or where they used to frequent. Now, the spirit is just the immaterial carbon copy of the physical body. It's just like how there's some research done by National Geographic years ago, which goes back to what all the prophets have said, in that everything on earth has a spiritual component and a physical component. They cut a leaf. I can't remember which National Geographic magazine, but it was one from the 80s. They took a leaf from a tree, they cut the leaf in half, and they looked at it under some electron microscope, and the outline of the leaf was still there, even though they cut off that half. Physically, it was gone, but a spiritual outline of that belief was still there where the physical part once existed. So that's what got me to realizing that yes, science can even prove that there is a energetic, uh, invisible under normal circumstances component to every living thing. Um, so that it's like so for example, if somebody who died in a car crash and got mangled, someone may see the spirit of that person also looking mangled. Is because when the spirit separated from the body, when the body physically died, it it looked exactly. Remember, it's a carbon copy. So if when the body physically died, it looked mangled, the spirit will look mangled at the time of separation. But the
Mm.
spirit is not the same thing as the soul. The soul moves. The soul uh, comes from what you want to call it, heaven, paradise, spirit world, comes from that place of love and light, enters the physical dimension reality, could be at fertilization of the sperm and the ova, or just before birth. But always before the child enters the world, the soul inhabits that body. That nothing can trap or steal, or like contrary to horror movies, no sorcerer or anything can trap anybody's soul. The soul belongs to God. It's part of the macro consciousness, so nothing can interfere with your soul. Your soul is immortal. Come into this world, go out of this world, come back again. Could be seconds after it leaves, you could reincarnate into another body, or it
Mm.
could be decades or centuries of Earth time before you reincarnate. And that's the key. God, that loving divine consciousness, does not force any of us to do anything. We have complete free will. If we want to reincarnate and continue our school for the soul immediately upon death, well, within seconds we're back in another body.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to wait and let a few centuries or days or weeks, months, years of Earth time pass, and Earth time and spirit world time is not the same, even Jesus said that, you'll recall in the Bible where he said, 1,000 years to man is like a day to God. Well, that's alluding to the fact that there are different, the passage of time is perceived differently in the physical world and the spirit world.
Mm.
But again, back to what I'm saying, now somebody who into the occultic arts and serves lower vibrational entities, they could trap the spirit of somebody in some place, like how the children that were molested and murdered in a house, and somebody will come to and realize, hey, I still see little kids running around in this building. Do you know this house is haunted by them? Those, the presence of the adult, the wicked adult who had molested them in life, who's also dead, his spirit could also, his or her spirit could also be in that house, and fear, using fear, stopping those spirits of those children from leaving.
Yeah.
So you could trap someone's spirit if you were into the dark arts, but you could no one or nothing could trap your soul. Now the it's a kind of hard thing to understand. Whereas the spirit knows, of course, it was a carbon copy of the physical body. So everything that you knew in your life, all the people you talked to, all the jokes you laughed at, and all the things you mischief you got up to, your spirit knows all of that because he was present for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it doesn't know anything out of the context of your physical lifetime experience. So whereas the spirit of your loved one could appear to you and have a conversation with you and talk about everything that you know happened with that, when that person was alive and that spirit was part of their body.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the same thing as their soul. Their soul has already moved on and come again in a different persona. If you want to compare it to playing a different role in a different Earth movie,
Yeah.
but the spirit is a conscious thing in itself. It is not, you know, it's not some blank, uh, like easel that has no kind of. It has its own consciousness, but it's more limited. It's not immortal. It's limited to the period of life that it was part of a physical body.
Mm.
So yes, if it's your dad or whatever, yes, your dad's spirit can interact with you, and you'll be happy to see it, and you should still show the same love and appreciation for it because it was once part of the Holy Trinity that was the dad you knew in life,
Yeah.
but it is not your dad's soul. Uh, your dad's soul will only ever, you couldn't see your dad's soul like how you could see the spirit in your waking eyes, if the conditions are right. But um, if it's your dad's soul could only come to you in your dream state when your body's at total rest, and then that is different to what you will see with your awakened eyes. So you may
Mm.
see your dad's spirit with your awakened eyes, but if he comes to you in your dream state and tells you things or whatever, well, that's his soul interacting with you. You could only do that if he is not reincarnated yet. Again, if he's already reincarnated, obviously he can't come and visit you. But if he's still in the spirit world and not come back into the physical world again yet, he can come if he has important message or warning to give you. He has that free will right to come to. And another thing too, there's no father or son in the spirit world. We were literally all best friends as conscious energy in the spirit world. There's no father, son, husband, wife, anything like that. We're all best friends in the spirit world, but it's kind of a deeper friendly love than we will ever understand in the human context.
Mm.
But we're all equal when it comes to that. There are no little kids in heaven or old people in heaven. Everybody is the same. I can't even say age, but basically everybody is the same conscious energy.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but we're components of the same thing, but with different personalities. But we're all the same age, if you want to call it that.
So like, tell me, because when does, because in our culture, uh, when someone passes away, that the soul in this case, or spirit, or both of them actually, they're still there for at least a couple of days
Yeah.
before they depart this dimension, I would say.
Hmm.
How, yeah, what happens? So let's say someone passes away, and according to you, like in your knowledge, like what happens then? Someone passes away, what happens
Yeah,
spiritually? Yeah.
their spirit and soul separate from the body. The
Hmm.
soul will usually see the souls of other loved ones waiting to escort it to the light. And you may go and see, go in that direction and do that first, but also there's a period of days where you are allowed to linger around the family as well, grieving loved ones, the people that you knew for all these years, that how outpouring of grief, they love you so much, and you feel sorrow for them at the disconnection. I mean, they're missing you in their lives, but if they were in the spirit world, they would realize that the separation is really a blip in cosmic time. And so
Hmm.
even though you may live for 100 years after your loved one dies, and you'll be missing them for all that time, in the spirit world, those 100 years is insignificant. So it's not a big deal as we think it is here. And that's
Yeah.
why, like, even my youngest sister-in-law died last night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
I'm super brave actually that you're still joining the conversation.
yeah, as I remember, I told you, even my dad, I used to say that life is for the living and life must go on. We can't allow
Mhm.
ourselves to be paralyzed by grief. Now, of course, my wife, that was her baby sister, so she's feeling it much harder than me. But also, what helps me too is the once you understand that, sure, there's nothing to fear, and death is an inevitable end result of life,
Mm.
physical death. It's just stepping from one world into another world and then back into another reality. And there's really nothing to fear. And all it means is that I'll be seeing her more frequently now in my dream state than before. I would only have a phone call or a Skype message or whatever to communicate with her because she was living in
Mhm.
another country. But now we'll be seeing her more regularly when we connect on that spiritual level. Because
Yeah.
when our physical body's at rest, it's like almost, I guess, a Star Trek fan might understand it in the concept of the shields are down. When we are physically awake, it's like a subconsciously generated force field around us that stops us seeing many spiritual things, and some people completely blocks out everything, and
Yeah.
your spirit and soul are trapped within your body for that waking period. And a
Mm.
few people, a really small minority, have been able to control it and lucid dream. And what that is not just random neurons firing in your brain and you're imagining stuff. It's when your body's at total state of rest. Remember, your soul or spirit, they never get hungry or thirsty or tired, so they don't have a need to rest. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now that the physical body vehicle is at rest, finally I can come out of it and wander for a bit until it's time to return before it wakes up again.
Mm.
So what you interpret when you wake up as being, oh, I had a weird dream last night. I talked with so and so who died years ago. No, it was your soul and that person's soul literally met on the spiritual plane when your soul was wandering out of your body when your body was at total rest. And you interpreted that after return to your body and you physically woke up as being a dream that you had. Now, it wasn't
Yeah.
a dream, it was your spirit interacting with other spirits and you recalling what they said, did, or heard during that period of time when it returned back into your physical body.
Mm. This makes me if, have to makes me retrace some events in my life, because I can remember like after my mom passed away, that maybe I had like one or two occasions that she stopped by in my dreams, I would say. But just for ease of word, use the word dreams. I can't say like shields down, like in terms of
Dream state. Yeah, dream state.
yeah, in the dream state, yeah. Siblings, she has appeared. Even my niece, like a week ago, my niece, she sent me a text like, yeah, that my mom stopped by in her dreams. So is that? I'm curious. Can that be attributed to not being in a dream state, or does the fact that I do not, at least since she passed away, so that we're talking about 4 years ago, 4 years, appeared like 2 or maybe 3 times tops actually in my dreams. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Wondering why?
Well, if it's always trying to seek, I'm always trying to find this explanation, right? So with what you just now said, I'm not like spirits or souls are meeting each other in the spiritual realm, and for us it is when we're in our dreams, because our bodies are full at rest, and so my semi conclusion would be that my body is not in rest because I do not see my mom as often as I would like to. Maybe that's something that has to do with it as well.
Yeah. Well, I would more think that, well, because every time you're physically sleeping, your body's a state of rest. But what we eat and drink, remember, it contaminates our body too. And so anything that's kind of blocking your pineal gland, you could be having experiences but just not remembering it because you maybe, like me, for example, I don't drink any sodas. I stopped years ago drinking, Coke, Sprite, all these
Okay.
things. Because
Just put it this kind of sort of way though. Yeah.
Yeah, no, literally, even commercial alcohol. Stop drinking that. I realize that a lot is man-made stuff that is not natural. It creates not only natural biological blocks in your body, because remember that old saying about you are what you eat. So if you put contamination into your body, you're gonna have a contaminated body. The more I purge unnatural things from my dietary intake, the more the more frequent I remember my dream state experiences. That's why, like on Facebook, you see me posting almost every day, because at least 2 to 3 dream state experiences every night I have, like every day, every night. Whereas before, when I used to eat and drink a lot of artificial stuff, that would be far more rare. And it's not that you're not having these things; it's not remembering these things,
Yeah.
because and that is could be a result of. It's very hard, especially if you live in an urban context. I mean, only people who really live in the countryside and grow their own fruit and organic stuff and all that could really have a contamination-free diet. But because even the bottled water that you buy in a city, that I'm sure that's not as pure and healthy as they claim it is.
Mm.
It's some kind of processing going on there. But yeah, but basically now I I eat fruit. I mean, there's a lot of fruit here in this country that never gets sprayed by any pesticide, because imported fruit is the one that you have to suspect. But local wild fruits, eat a lot of that regularly. I try, if I didn't grow my own crops, vegetables, we buy from people we know that don't use pesticide. And the only liquids I drink is water
Mm.
or fruit juices. I don't drink any commercial alcohol or any commercial sodas or any of these flavored things. I don't even drink tea or coffee. Um, so I found that for me personally, when I detoxified of all these man-made stuff, and like I wouldn't eat stuff like corn curls and cheesies and Cheetos and
Cheetos.
all that unnatural stuff
Mm.
is little doses of poison in your body. Might taste great in your mouth, but they're not doing you any long term good, really, spiritually or physically. So it's
Yeah.
best if you can eliminate them. I guarantee that you will notice an increase in your recollection of your nightly spiritual experiences, because there's no such thing as people who don't have them, but it is a
Mm.
very common thing. Is most people don't remember them, for the same reasons I outlined. If anybody can do it, you detoxify and get rid of all the unnatural stuff, and guarantee you're going to see experience more spiritual things. As long as, because if you tell yourself, if you're a diehard atheist and you eat the most healthy diet in the world, you're never going to see anything, because you have convinced yourself that there is nothing to see. So
Mm.
you have erected your own invisible mentally projected wall that blocks anything supernatural or spiritual from interacting with you.
Yeah.
So you can't say that, well, I've never seen anything, so therefore nothing must exist as your proof or rationale for your conclusion you have just jumped to.
Yeah.
Is you have created that scenario for yourself. You are in your own box and nothing can penetrate that box. So if you're eating and drinking healthy, but you remain open-minded, that tell yourself every day that I don't have all the answers and I will never have all the answers.
Mm.
I don't even have all the questions yet. Life is a continuous learning journey. As long as you remain open to anything is possible, and until I see concrete proof otherwise, I'm going to remain open-minded that, yeah, this sounds weird to me now, but who knows, it may be possible. Don't just be arbitrary, and anything that may seem strange to you, you dismiss out of hand, or no, there's no God and there's no spirit world, and well, you're never gonna progress spiritually, because you don't even think there's anything worthwhile. There's no spirituality to progress to. So you become your own worst enemy when you start dealing with absolutes.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, like when they talk about healthy lifestyle, detoxing the body and everything else,
Mm.
they put it into like the category of, yeah, healthy lifestyle, feeling good again, and um, which is true. But I think you're the first one. Explain to people what um, what you just now described, detox and everything else, how that relates to the pineal gland and what it actually does to a
Mm.
body, how important it is to a body. But where is it? Also, like
Right.
a lot of people don't know what it is.
It's like where the Hindus have put that red dot. is basically like a centimeter or so beyond that part of your forehead, between your eyes almost, a little between your eyebrows more likely,
Mm,
pineal gland. Yeah, if that is blocked by unnatural dietary intake, that severely restricts. It's like if a lot of dust gets in your iPhone charger and it's not going to take the charge, you need to keep that contact clean. So
mm,
if your pineal gland is calcified or obstructed in any way, your spiritual experiences are going to be greatly diminished and reduced. And you could only then clear that by, well, I guess partly your own thought processes and being open minded, but mainly to what you're physically putting into your body.
mm. All right. And what does it do for a body? Like how important is it to a body? Because a lot of people talk about guts, hearts, lungs, livers, kidneys,
Mm.
but like the pineal gland is not something that people are very much aware of. So what does it do to a body, or maybe not only physically spiritually?
Yeah, well, the main power of it is really is like your own spiritual receptor or antenna.
Mm,
So that is what the transmissions are going out to the universe. It's from there, and it receives information from the universe on a spiritual, energetic level too. So that's why it was, I guess, the lower vibrational powers that be that can tend to dominate things on this plane of existence. I've always sought to downplay it or to
mm,
block it, obstruct it in some way, because if people were more spiritually aware, there are lots of things in this world would improve, and things that the cunning people do to deceive and manipulate the others would not be as successful as they have been and they still are.
mm.
But by switching off that in most human beings, you've really created a more manageable population
Yeah.
on a spiritual level as well as on a physical everyday level. Because you don't you don't question a lot of things. You're more likely to be docile and with conforming when that your pineal gland is obstructed.
Hmm.
So in a very wicked way is a tool for either the spiritual liberation or spiritual oppression of people. It
Mm,
depends on how clear your pineal gland is.
right. Okay. And how do you notice or see or experience that when it's calcified, like you have to like decalcify? Is that really what I just described, like not knowing how to,
Mhm.
like not being able to remember dreams and everything? Is that an indication uh, of something like a calcified pineal gland?
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you say, "Well, shoot, man, I hardly ever remember my dreams, and I maybe in my whole life I've only had one or two spiritual experiences, and nothing out of the ordinary happens," so that you basically diagnose yourself as your pineal gland is being obstructed.
Mm,
But it may take you, it's not going to be an overnight thing, but several months of detoxifying your diet as well as your habits too. Because I mean, if you're open-minded and you detoxify your food and liquid intake, but yet you're addicted to watching porn, you're still spiritually obstructing yourself, because that is not a constructive pastime. You don't learn anything beneficial from watching things like that.
mm,
So you need to refocus, and it's a big effort. It's like most native sayings, if you want to receive something good, you have to be willing to give up something bad.
mm.
So you can't have it all. Like, I'm gonna keep all my bad habits, but yet I'm gonna expect to, become a guru in 12 months or something. It doesn't work that way. The more negative things that you eliminate from your life, the more room you're making for positive things to take that place.
Yeah.
So it's a comprehensive all-around effort
Does
every day.
does it also work in a way that the more bad you do and you think you do, that it also like manifests in a way in like bad experiences as well.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too that I also have to remember to replace positive and negative with higher, um, higher vibrational and lower vibrational.
Mm.
So if you is like how can I put it this way? The the free will that we all have, right? Like someone will say, "Oh, I didn't believe that there's a God because look what happened to that child fell off of a building and died or whatever." And I
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
"Oh, we I'm a parent. Now, I can't be 24/7 holding the hand of my child. There will be a point when it, wanders off on its own. So if my child is running outside and falls and, breaks a limb, does that make me a bad parent or I don't love my children because bad things have happened to it? We have
hmm
to understand that there's free will. Not only we ourselves have free will, but other people have free will too. So somebody could use their free will and decide, I'm gonna do some physical harm to this person here. You didn't do anything wrong, but that person is determined that they want to harm you.
mm.
That doesn't mean that there's no such thing as God, but not there are two sides to it. We all have free will to do whatever we want to do, whether it's something good or bad down here in the
Yeah,
physical realm that has nothing to do with God, but also to what we take as being so drastic and terrible. And oh my God, how could this happen? Can't be a God because this super evil thing happened to this person. But remember, in the spirit world, this our physical lives are just a cosmic blip in time. And not only that, another saying too, a lot of young souls are more likely to say something like, I didn't ask to be born. It's my parents' job. They made me, they brought me into this world, so they have to take care of me.
hmm
Actually, no. If you are spiritually aware, you know that every single one of us on this planet volunteered to come here and live in these bodies and to go, have these lives. Not that you volunteered for evil things to happen to you, but you know that with free will, there's no guarantee that your life is going to be a bed of roses. But from a spirit world perspective, you understand that even a terrible thing happening to you here is just a insignificant blip in cosmic time, but that spiritually you learn and you grow from any adversity that you experience. So even though not saying that it justifies it or makes it okay,
mm.
because there is good in the world and there's evil in the world. But every human being came from a place of good and entered this world with nothing but goodness in our hearts.
Mm.
While we are here, times, circumstances, events may derail us to one way or another, and we become, instead of servants of the light that we were originally, while here we become servants of darkness. And look at Saddam Hussein. He wasn't always a evil person. As a little boy, he was an innocent little boy like all of us were once, but he lost his parents early. His uncle raised him. His uncle used to beat him mercilessly, make him live in the pig pen and eat food out of the pig trough. So he grew up with hatred and vengeance in his heart.
Mm.
I'm not saying that that is an excuse to exonerate what he did as an adult, but if you look into the background story of everybody who does negative things, you can see the point in time in their life where that sweet innocent child or person, got derailed and turned onto a different path in life.
Mm.
So the kind of the human tendency is a rush to judgment. Oh, so and so is evil, and they should be killed. And yeah, just dig a little deeper and look into everybody's story. This person is behaving like a jackass today because of something that happened to them and they didn't process it. It affected them in a way that maybe they didn't handle it the way you or I would have. And so this is the end result, the consequences of what occurred in their formative years.
Mm.
So that's why again, why I like many of the sayings of Jesus when he said about judge not lest you be judged. We don't know, and he also said condemn the bad people do, but don't condemn the person doing the bad, because yes, this person did wicked things, but it still originally was a being of light. So that's why I will go even further and saying a true Christian should not even hate the entity that they call Satan, the persona of evil, they should be praying because that their own religion tells them that he was a being of light before, he was an angel. They should be continuously praying that he returns to the light and abandons the negative or the dark, bad, lower vibrational ways that is attributed to that entity.
Mm.
So, that's it's very hard. But another thing, I've had some relatives who they were very wronged in life, and they would say things like, "Oh, I will hate this person until I die, or never forgive them." And I say, what they did to you is terrible, but you anger and hatred is a cancer that's eating away at you. It's not affecting that person that you were thinking of. They'll answer for their own karma. But you need to leave this life without any shred of envy, jealousy, or hatred in your heart.
Mm.
And that's very, very hard for people who have been wrong to do, is to forgive the person who wronged them. That person will, I guarantee you, they will answer for what they have done in their own time in due course.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying like if ISIS came to my home now and came to slaughter my family because they consider us the infidels, I'm not going to go out to them like a fool. Hey, brothers, please, do you really want to do this thing? Come and sit with me and let's pray for it. Let's talk about this. No, they're still
Mm.
going to kill me. They'll kill my family.
Yeah.
So obviously, in those circumstances, to defend the lives of the innocent, you would be justified to use violence to defend yourself and your loved ones, but you don't take delight in doing it. If ISIS attack my home and I manage to kill them before they kill my family, I'm not gonna then cut the heads off and parade them around my yard on a stick and feel great that I just killed these wicked people. I'll feel sorry that these human beings were so depraved in spirit that they were coming to do such evil to us for no reason. So yes, you have to take the lives of others in this life, depending on your circumstances, but
Mm.
you should never take pleasure, joy, delight in doing that. Always recognize that this was the absolutely worst. It may be justified, but it was the worst course of action possible. So I feel no joy that I had to do it, but
Mm.
to save the innocents, it had to be done.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's it's interesting to listen to because it's uh never thought of deeply about it the way that you did. Um,
It's like the difference between kill and murder. You cannot murder someone in self-defense, but you can kill people in self-defense.
yeah.
Murder is a malicious act. I will like his wife. I want his money. I'm gonna murder this man to get these things. But somebody's coming to kill you, and you don't know them. You didn't do anything wrong to them. Well, you have a right to defend yourself by lethal force if necessary. It would be
Yeah.
better if you could subdue them without killing them. That would be the best of all scenarios. But it doesn't, any split second decisions in these kind of circumstances, that may not always be possible. So that's why there is such a thing as justifiable homicide, even in the laws of men.
Yeah.
And likewise, spiritually, all of our indigenous ancestors, they were not wrong to literally fight the colonizers, the invaders, the oppressors who were raping our women and slaughtering our children. So they did what was right according to the times and circumstances in which they lived. So nobody should feel ashamed or should ever look down upon them for taking the course of action that they had to. They literally had no choice. So we need to be mindful of that as well, because there is a tendency now. I've heard it a couple of times at the UN and YouTube. We've gone to certain sessions and we hear some Native Americans talking about, my elders taught me that violence was never wrong. Well, violence was never right, and they go on and they're saying, yeah, it's never right, but some days it's necessary. You're forgetting Geronimo and Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull and Red Cloud and all the other Tecumseh and all the other great leaders. If it wasn't for
Hmm.
them physically waging war on the people who are invading their country and exterminating their people, you wouldn't be here today to
Yeah.
talk what you're saying about violence is never right and must never use violence for any reason. I said, no, the violence is never right. Yes, but it's often justified. It just depends on the context it is used.
Right. And as long as it's yeah, that makes sense. What do you is this because when you explain all this, so something that popped up into my mind, which was like karma. What a lot of people would talk about is karma. Are you? Is this how you? Is it this your definition of karma, or is it something? Are you have a different view of what or do have people have a different view of what karma is?
Well, karma is something you can't pin down to any one explanation. For example, you could live your whole life doing evil after evil after evil, and seemingly, you die high on the hog. You had everything, all the material comforts, and say that guy died in his sleep. He murdered all these people, but yet he died peacefully in his sleep. Yes, he may have exited this life, and it looks as though karma did not catch up with him, but in the spirit world, it will. The same way your good deeds in this life they carry on with you into the next life. Also, the baggage of your ill deeds, but this judgment, the judgment that we'll face is not what most religions portray it as, in that like you stand before God and everything you've done bad is you're accused, and the Egyptians believe that you're then cast into torment if your scales show that you did more bad than good. My understanding is it's not like that, but it is remember, you can be an ignorant, obstinate jackass in the physical world, but once your body is dead, the ego is the main driving force behind your objectionable character. But once you exit the physical world, you remember, all of us come from a place of love and light. So once you're back in the spirit world, then you remember who you really are, and you look at how you have lived your life, and you personally, it's like you are shown, uh, you're shown your life projected before you, every single thing you did to everybody that hurt their feelings and made them depressed or insulted them, or how, not only what you did and said, but how that person that you hurt, how they felt. You feel that, you feel all the pain and the suffering that you cause others. So you stand in judgment of your own self. God does not judge you. You judge yourself because you have returned now to your true higher vibrational state of honesty and truth, and you realize that, my goodness, my in my life when I was in that body, ego was really in control of me, and look at where it led me. Look at all the suffering I've caused others, and you truly, you feel such waves of remorse and grief for what you have done. So it's not a case of God is some sadomasochist that's gonna cast you into a lake of fire for eternity. People who think that way don't realize that this soul came from the divine love and light and entered this world as an innocent baby because they grew up into a wicked adult. You think God would be so heartless and merciless to punish them for eternity over going astray in this life? How could that be a loving, heavenly father or mother figure? We're too caught up in this human nonsense, and this need to punish. We have to make people suffer for everything that they do. Instead of it's kind of a waste of time arguing with people like that. But that's the whole problem with organized religion being fear based. Everything revolves around fear, fear, fear. But that's not how it is in the spirit world. You judge your own self, but you judge yourself honestly. No matter how dishonest you were when you died 1 second ago, suddenly you're out of your ego-driven, dishonest self body, and now you are what you were meant to be. And it's like you are now the honest soul that you were originally before you were born. So you stand in judgment of your own self. Not saying that you should go and do as much wicked as you want because there's no lake of fire to be cast into, but you might tell yourself now that, the the grief and remorse that I'm supposed to feel, I never feel that because I don't care about other people. That's your ego talking, bro. When you leave your body, you will feel intense, more intense than anything you thought possible. grief and remorse for every wrong thing you've done to everyone. Because as I said, you'll not only see all of those scenarios play out again, but you will feel from the other person's perspective how it felt to be insulted and ridiculed and beaten and used and abused. So you get the comprehensive treatment. What you have sown, you will reap.
Yeah. I think, come to think of it, like some religions and beliefs have multiple gods. Like this, and I think the way that you describe it, like dealing with like being on Judgment Day, for example, with one god is bad enough, but I have multiple gods, and then you're in freaking trouble. I would I would think. Yeah, like any thoughts on that? Like, I'm not asking for like what's true and what's not.
Right.
But like I find it fascinating actually, because there's some religions that look like one god, but there are some that have multiple ones,
Right.
multiple gods.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For us as Lokono-Arawaks, we believe that there's one all-powerful God. I think most indigenous peoples, most tribes believe there's one great all-powerful God figure or entity.
Mhm.
But there are many other powerful entities in between God and man, that can do a great number of things. They're not as powerful as God, but they're far more powerful than man. And so it could be a case of some of these religions mistaking these powerful, other less powerful but still more powerful than man, spiritual entities as being gods. Because I guess compared to primitive man who may have encountered them on a spiritual level, a dream quest or whatever, visions, uh, millennia ago, to you, that who would never, seen fire except from you rubbing sticks together, those entities would seem like gods to you. But then again, also, even in the own Christian Bible in Genesis, the exact translation, it was let us, plural, the Elohim, make man in our image. So us and our shows me that this is not one entity speaking here, this is plural. So for all we know, maybe the what we call the good or powerful one God, maybe more than one entity, but this is still good and all powerful. So there's room for that uh, polytheism to exist. I guess if judging from your own holy books, some speak strictly of a monotheistic deity, but most of them seem to have pluralized it, the gods. So that part we will know for sure when we exit these bodies again. But for now, while we're here, we kind of dumbed down version of our souls being in physical bodies. So certain things will not be within our comprehension in these body vehicles.
Yeah. I'm going to hell for this. I'm just going to like finish this can of soda, because like when you talked about. So I'll just finish it, and then I'll never touch soda ever again. Because I don't want to waste, even though it's like I said, it's rubbish. Even though it says no sugar, but like right, huh? Because I'm a moron. Like it was I don't know why I bought it, but but I'm basically an idiot, because that when it says no sugar, there's always some kind of a replacement in it, right? Even if not worse than sugar,
Right.
but just putting that label on it, no sugar, makes people like, oh, I'm an idiot, I'm gonna buy it. I bought so many like diet things and sugar-free things
Hmm.
Yeah, like, but I know better though. But like, yeah, I don't know what is marketing, commercials, being an idiot, being a moron. That I just keep on buying these stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna drink it. I'm gonna finish it. By the end of this conversation, and then I'll toss. I think I have one can left in the fridge, so I'll just chuck that one away, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's super interesting. Like your knowledge of all this is how did you accumulate all that? Because I'm if I would have to like um have the amount of the breadth, the depth of knowledge that you have about all this, I would have to like have like an almanac of encyclopedias and books right next to me, and I would have to look it up and verify things. Uh, yeah, like and don't come at me with general interest because I'm not buying it. Uh, well, how did you how did you get all this be so knowledgeable about this? Like I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Well, I guess, I was always interested in it. I was
Mm,
gonna say, well, the dreams and visions started in childhood because mom would always say, like, since I was little, I would tell her that I saw things, or you know, loved ones would come and who passed away would come and talk to me in my sleep, and then I would remember and tell her when I woke up. So I was always open to it from little. But
mm,
then now that I recall, my older brother Craig, when around the time that mom, I think it was only 4 months in her, my other brother Craig, he saw a daytime vision because mom and dad saw him walking down the our gap going to Granny's house, and he stopped and looked up in the sky, and then he screamed and ran back to the house. Nobody else saw anything but he. And when they asked him, well, what happened? What did you see? He said he saw a huge eagle flying down like from the sky towards him, and he had a man in one talons and a woman in the other talons. And for his whole childhood, he couldn't understand what that vision meant. But then, when I married back into the tribe at 19, then he came to me and said, I think that was a vision,
mm,
showing me that you were going to be born, and so somewhat connected with me then. So maybe because I find a lot of, I mean, you're my good friend, so you know that I'm no saintly angel person. I have just as much flaws as anybody else, but I always wanted to know these things, and always felt like this perception of reality was not all that there is, and most things were actually hidden. And
mm,
so then when you then get scientific proof of that, even in school days, where they were saying, well, humans only see 5% of the actual light spectrum that exists, but because of the way our eyes are made, we only see 5% of it. And so then science started to confirm what I always suspected, that everything we see and hear isn't everything that there is. There's
mm,
more. So that drive to seek and find out more, talk with elders, and just always insatiably trying to learn more. I think I'll die learning. I would never tell myself that I know enough, or that I'm knowledgeable. I say I've picked up a lot of good info so far in my 47 years of life, but I still intend. There's still a hell of a lot more that I don't know that I want to learn and be able to pass on to my kids, and hopefully other people in the tribe, and friends and relatives, and anybody who's interested, really. Because I think, I said it, not anybody could do it, yes, but not everybody has the passion or the interest. And so then it falls on, just like how doesn't have the passion or interest to be an artist or a teacher,
mm,
but we need different kinds of people in our societies. And so maybe that's something, that the role I was supposed to play in this life,
yeah.
the important role, besides being a husband or a son or brother or father, maybe one of the important ways I'm supposed to give back is by finding out certain things and sharing it with others. Um, Just like my daughter, eldest daughter, seems to have a gift of being a teacher. She, little kids really gravitate towards her, and she makes a difference in their lives. So yeah, I think that's everybody has come here with some talent to do something for the collective good of humanity. So that's what I believe in. Maybe this little thing is my contribution.
Mm. Is there anything that um like I because you're well spoken, you know you have a lot of things about spirituality and everything that comes with it. Um, is there an area that you're exploring right now that interests you, that you're reading up on, or trying to learn more about?
No, I'm always the last thing that I was trying to
By the
wrap my
way,
mind around
yeah, okay.
was what was the gentleman? Oh yeah, Stephen Hawking. Why he was saying that it is entirely possible that our existence here could be a super high tech hologram that was created by a far advanced civilization. And so I was trying to wrap my mind around that being a possibility too, that it could literally be a technical reason behind the things that we're pondering on a spiritual level. Is just, as I say, we may not be as highly intelligent as we think we are compared to
Oh,
the other
that's for
life.
certain. That is for certain. You don't have to be Stephen Hawking to know that.
Because that's the problem of human ego is we tend to think that look, we can create ships and go to the moon and
Mm,
explore the furthest reaches of our galaxy, so therefore we must be it, man. There's nothing out there that could be superior to us. But maybe
really?
we are one of those. We may be one of the last evolved life forms, so others may be far, millennia advanced of us, and we're just so stupid they haven't bothered to make contact with them, because with us, because they're just like observing us and saying, "Damn, these guys are so stupid." They think they're so smart, but they aren't ready yet. So let's give.
Yeah. Sometimes I even think of maybe, and this is like a shower thought kind of thing.
Mm,
If we're diving into the realm of science fiction and galaxy and everything else, Stephen
mm,
Hawking, is maybe there's a slight chance because we're now dealing with COVID, right? And we're in
mm,
quarantine and lockdown. Maybe there's a chance that um, aliens, other species, or whatever, have put us in a quarantine. That's we're in that they locked us out of everything else, and that there's this vast expanse of a galaxy that
mm.
it is. We just cannot go beyond that because they put us into a quarantine. I don't know.
Like,
It's just my, and I wasn't high on drugs, or I don't do drugs, but by the way, but it
yeah,
was it was a thought that I had.
mm. Yeah. I mean that, like the prison planet theory.
The what? Oh, there's
Prison
a
planet.
yes, there's a theory about it. Explain
Yeah,
it. Explain to me.
that we are not evolved enough yet to be, part and parcel of the evolved members or sentient beings of the universe. So until we reach that level of conscious evolution here, this planet was like a way station, a quarantine station in space for our species.
Oh.
So to alter our progression from whatever hominid was here at first that was genetically tweaked and then evolve into the Homo sapiens that we are today.
Mm.
Because yeah, really, and we generally as a species we are not really at a level where any super intelligent life form could successfully interact with us. We're like cavemen then. So for them to, I mean, we would have perceive alien life as being a potential threat, and we have some idiot head of state that may, they start a war, or attack them or something. So it's all sorts of things could go wrong. We may be too primitive minded compared to a truly advanced sentient being civilization that not only bother. It's like, okay, let's put it this way: like how human scientists go to different parts of the globe
Mm.
and we observe other life forms. We just observe from far because is either we don't have the technology to interact with them or is no point because they're just too different to us. So best thing we could do is just observe them and take notes and
Mm-hmm.
extrapolate on what we think they're doing or saying or whatever. Maybe it's a case like that. Maybe remember to sizes is all relevant and perspective
Mm.
to an ant, and to an ant, an elephant is this incomprehensibly massive life form that it can't even conceive. What about if you see us as bacteria in a petri dish? Now, to the bacteria in a petri dish, that petri dish is their whole known universe. And from one end of the petri dish to the other, that could be the equivalent of us going from the Arctic to the Antarctic.
Mm.
So size is relevant. And
Yeah.
maybe there's some, if you want to put it this way, some highly intelligent other conscious being that we would describe as a scientist who is doing that experiment. And remember, bacteria only live for, I mean, what was a bacteria's lifetime for us is just a few hours, but for them that may be 100 years in a bacteria's
Could be a
lifetime.
lifetime. Yeah.
Exactly. So size may be relevant. We may be just some cosmic scientist experiment for all we know. Whereas he's not involved in your interaction with us 24/7, but he has an interest in his experiment and he would like to see it progress from one level or state to the next level. So every now and then he may insert something into that petri dish that will cause a change, a paradigm shift in the bacteria's consciousness or something. You just never know. You know what I'm getting at though. Whereas like the wisdom teachers may come to us in different periods of time to change the trajectory of mankind. We be going down a self-destructive road of savage ignorance, and then
Mm-hmm.
a wise human appears and makes people think differently and expands their consciousness a little bit. And then that teacher is gone. A few centuries later, another teacher comes, and but each time that teacher has impressed people so much that they've then started a whole religion based on his teachings or her
No.
teachings. Well, we could see it that way, but they were actually inserts into our version of reality to try and steer us toward a higher consciousness, evolution of steps all the time, instead of leaving us to wallow in our own self-destructive ignorance, because we will just find better and better ways to kill each other. That's all. Humans really. If you leave us alone, there'll never be an end to wars. So we need to evolve beyond that and really learn to resolve our differences in civilized manner, a truly civilized manner where we can actually not only talk about it, but be able to see and feel the other person's perspective and say, oh, you know what? I never thought about it this way, but I could see how my enemy would have perceived me in this way or misinterpreted my actions, because if I was in his position, that we need to get to that level instead of, everything is black and white. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to get beyond that.
Yeah. No, it's so fascinating actually. So as sophisticated as we are as a species, as humanity, that we still try to see things from our own perspective. We'll look at the world from our own, or our lack of knowledge actually, and we also try to label things. We always need to label things, and it's so fascinating to me that people are easily labeled or as left or right, progressive or conservative.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, we're a much more sophisticated species, for crying out loud. We're far more nuanced than just left or just right.
Yeah,
I would think, but it's this whole mindset of trying to see things from our own point of view, from our own individual point of view. It's definitely something that is hindering, and maybe I don't know, maybe is that if we surpass that, if we unlock this whole new level of like Super Mario Brothers, and I'm like, all right, now you can go meet, go to Mars or whatever, or meet other species, or yeah, maybe that's it, because I don't see it happening like very anytime soon. Actually, like not being pessimistic, definitely not. But like if you see like how easy people nowadays are triggered.
Exactly.
It's so easy to trigger. People are so easy to be triggered nowadays, and so quick to judge and place other people in certain categorize people or put them, label them. Oh, you're left. Oh, you're lefty. If you're or you're you're right. Democrat, Republican.
Right.
Jeez, man, we're so much more sophisticated than that. Like at least there's some nuance. Like at least it deploys some nuance. Whenever you're looking at people, but I don't know. Do you see that happening anytime soon? Or anytime soon, and obviously time is a concept that is relative, as you just now described. But it's if we going down this path, like it is not going. Like every time, like when you see something happening in the world, that's like, oh no, man, this can't be happening. Like this can't be. It can't get any worse than this. And then somebody is like, hold my beer. I'll I'll show you. I'll show you that it can get worse than this. It is. It's are we so stupid? I don't know. Like it is because we all know that we all aspire to, when we look to the stars and I want to get there. I want to go to Mars, or they're part of something bigger than just us being a bunch of lemmings here on planet Earth. I don't know. It's sometimes I believe. Sometimes I think of maybe if I don't know, E.T. found his buddies and like wanted to invade planet Earth, like maybe that would be a good thing, because then only then you'd have you would unify as a species against something else, because that would because there's a common enemy, right? Something along those lines, like maybe. So I don't know, E.T. if you're watching. By all means, I don't know. It's just me thinking out loud, actually, about But I'm space science fiction. It intrigues me, especially when you early on in the conversation when you talked about Star Trek. I'm like, oh, hold on, hold on. Like, I'm super fascinated by it as well. Science fiction and interesting. It gives you have a little bit of something to aim towards, right? Like I look at Star Trek. I watch Star Trek because the whole philosophy behind it is something that it is something that people can easily stand behind, or something like Star Wars is something that people can easily get behind. About but still, it is as binary as it can get, like good versus evil, and everything else. I don't know. What is your latest oh my god moment, or like epiphany, or when you read up on science fiction or stars or ET or UFOs? Like, huh, that's interesting.
So many things of late. Hard to pin down.
Almost finished it though.
Don't choke now. Hard to pin down one thing, but like for example, when you and I were in school, up to within 2 years ago, we always heard that there's nothing can go faster than the speed of light. That was some unbreakable rule of the universe or something. But then they discovered that, was it neutrinos? Something actually goes faster than the speed of light. So you have to rethink all those theories. And as I said, is things that are scientific fact today may be scientific fiction tomorrow or be disproved by some other fact that comes to light. So people really shouldn't hold on to as if it's written in stone and it can never change. You know what? Um,
Yeah,
things
it's
evolving
about
rapidly.
about 4 years ago, CERN, so that's in Geneva,
Right.
made a claim that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. During the course of an experiment, CERN scientists apparently discovered that neutrinos, tiny subatomic particles that travel near light speed, could possibly accelerate faster than light.
Hmm.
Okay.
Nice.
So light speed goes down the drain then. Okay.
And another thing, I think it was Einstein himself who said that time is not the linear human construct that we've made it into. And he
Hmm.
said that time was more of a circular loop. You could both, he said theoretically, you could go backwards and forwards in time. It's just that we haven't mastered the technology yet. But on a spiritual level, like that is already known to be a fact,
Hmm.
where you could see, you could in a dream say experience, you could see something that happened thousands of years ago as if it was happening live. Similarly, you could see something that hasn't happened yet. Like many things that it's hard to, it's in fact, it's impossible to prove anything that you've gone back in time. They say oh, it's already happened, so you could easily talk about it. But at least my post on Facebook is kind of stands proof. As 1 year before my first daughter was even born.
Hmm.
Remember, it's nine months in the womb, so therefore she wasn't even conceived. I saw in a dream vision that she was going to die as a baby a few days old. That's 1 year before the event happened. So she wasn't even conceived yet.
Yeah.
So it came true just as I saw in the dream state. And in other cases, like the same sister-in-law, I at 4 p.m. yesterday, I told my wife, "Your your dad and your big brother who died some years. Her dad died last year, and her big brother died over a decade ago. I said, their spirits are with your little sister right now, and she is going home to heaven tonight."
Hmm.
Then we got her husband called at 7 p.m. EST. A little after 7, he said that she just passed on. And, we were hoping, of course, that a miracle would happen and she would have lived longer. But from my praying yesterday and spirits telling me what was going to happen,
Hmm.
and it happened just as I was told. But the sad thing is, a little less than 2 years ago, I had told her, the spirits gave me a warning to give you. If you don't stop taking the cocktail of chemical pills every day that your doctors are prescribing to you, in less than 2 years, you'll be dead. Now, of course, that it's hard to tell somebody something like that because you're
Hmm.
predicting doom on them, but she still had more faith in her doctors than in what the spirit world had to say. And what happened, this is just 2 months short of her dying within the 2 years. She did die within 2 years, as I told her
Hmm.
would happen. So, I mean, it's not some random nonsense that you need to pay attention to. When they give you a warning, it's for a good reason. As the Aborigines don't have a problem with that. They'll tell you that this physical world perception, this is the real illusion. And what we consider to be dreams is actually the reality. So we have it kind of backward when we're in this physical realm or plane. We think that this is it, this is the reality. But even science has proven that this solid, so-called solid wall next to me is actually atoms with spaces all in between them. There's no
Hmm.
such thing as absolute. There's nothing solid in our perception of reality. It
Yeah.
appears solid, it feels solid, but on a atomic level, there's nothing solid. So it's a convincing illusion, and it's fooled many of us that there's nothing beyond it. But that goes back to I guess what started the ball rolling downhill is humans aspiring to create civilizations because indigenous peoples live in simple, humble, contented lives. Spirituality is strong as hell, But it's when you get one group of men that decide that no, we want to create an empire, we want to force people to live this way and in these houses and do what we say. You crush all resistance in order to create your so-called civilization.
Mm-hmm.
They realize it really is not a progressive thing. It's a very destructive thing. It is not. I mean, just because we have technology, but it's technology and all its wonders, is it really worth all the blood that's been shed and the societies that have been wiped off the face of the earth for us to get to this point in time where we have iPhones and what do you call all the different Wii's and PlayStations and what do you call that holograph thing that you put on and you
Yeah.
virtual reality.
Virtual reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that to have these devices and gadgets? Was it worth all the hundreds of millions that were slaughtered from the history? I do personally don't think so. I would be more content to live simple, humble, and realize that hey, every human being on this planet is my spiritual brother and sister. I want to get to know as many as possible, and enjoy life and live a real, honest and sustainable way. I would rather
Mm-hmm.
have that and live in a shack in the jungle than to live in a society where the neighbor on the other side of my condo wall, I don't know them, I don't trust them, I don't want to know them, I don't care anything about them. If they get murdered tonight, that's not my problem. Is that really a society that's worth having? Or I personally, for me, it would have been better if we cared about each other and we lived far more humbly without technology than have all this technology, but yet our hearts are stone cold and we don't give a shit about anybody else. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that's not the height of human civilization. That's the depth of it.
Mm.
Not such a great place to be.
Right. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that, right? Because I'm on social media. I'm on the internet very often, and you see those memes pass by like that. I'd rather be on a deserted island, by myself, and then. But that's like I'm kind of ironic. Like you post it on internet. You post on the internet that you're
All right.
rather be on a deserted island without any technology.
Yeah.
Interesting how we have evolved as a species, actually, and making use of. I think we can use technology for good.
Yeah.
I truly believe that we can do that.
For sure.
Yeah, but there's. Do you see any maybe foresee maybe any dangers in terms of our way of life? So when it comes to technology, that's like that makes you go like, this is not going the right way.
Well, our kids for sure. Let's
Yeah.
put it this way: natural sugars are not the problem. It's the unnatural sedentary lifestyle is the problem. When you or I were little, we were running around outdoors all day during the day with our friends when it was a holiday time or whatever, after school, riding bikes, skateboarding, roller skating. We're doing fun stuff outdoors, being active and burning off all those calories and sugars, no problem. But now you have the video game generation and the phone, the smartphone generation who, even though it's a birthday party, you have 10 kids and all 10 kids are just sitting down on their asses and each one of them has their phone in their hand and they're interacting with their phone. They may be sending a message to the kid. There's 3 kids further down. Instead of, hold on a minute, let me put the stupid phone down and actually speak to this person who is here with me. I'm so addicted to technology, I'm going to just send them a chat message or whatever, even though we're in the same space.
Yeah.
That's why we have so many obese kids and we have so many problems because they're still eating sugars, or probably even more sugars than we had in our time, but they're not burning it off naturally like we did in our time. So therefore, it just becomes more toxins building up in their bodies, and it leads to all sorts of problems. I'm convinced the attention deficit disorders come from all those, the whole video game generation where you have these lights flashing constantly and nothing stays still. It's not like you're reading a book where you take your time and you're just reading, the letters and getting a calming, tranquil time. Everything is, has to be on the move, and you go and you're doing this, you're blowing up that, you're jumping here, you're shooting this, you can't stay quiet. So that, I think, is rubbing off on the kids, because when I go among Amazonian tribes and other indigenous peoples who don't have any of that video game technology, I kid you not, there's no such thing as a child in those communities with attention deficit disorder. These obviously are man-made problems that pop up in the urban context because of mitigating factors like I outlined before. It's not any natural thing that occurs everywhere. That's nonsense. These are problems created by the kind of society that we have created and we're living in. Because other societies that don't have the same factors, don't have the same problems.
Right. Well, it isn't. It's an interesting thought, because I'm leaning towards. And by the way, I'm not a doctor, so just a thought about this is that attention deficit disorder, is that something that, because I get the feeling that it's something that is of late, as in the last couple of decades.
Yeah, for sure.
And is it something that? So two questions are in my mind, right? Is one, are people too quick to diagnose ADD, or and another question is has it something? Maybe it's something to do with, because I know that from a lot of people that had some symptoms of ADD, that the only thing that they had to do was to meditate. So they started practicing meditation, and like along the time, and did that, made a habit out of it, which made the symptoms of ADD either disappear or make it less frequently. So yeah, like I don't know. Is it has it something to do with society or with video games? It's an interesting thought to talk about this. Yeah, because a lot of people are like, I have friends that are quickly subscribe anything that they're bad at. So like, because I have attention deficit disorder, or like it is, and obviously I haven't walked a mile in their shoes, so I cannot know. But I do see that some people, some of my friends, they quickly subscribe it to ADD, or what's the other one? Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you though, and I think yes, it's not only people. It's a natural tendency for a lot of humans to look for a crutch, to look for an excuse to latch on to explain a problem, and then in other cases, is literally a case of mind over matter. If I, tell myself that I have this thing, you can literally manifest that in yourself, and you will have that thing. But likewise, if you tell yourself that no, it's not that, it's something else, and like for example, I had an aunt. She stayed with us for about a month. Old aunt, and she told me, please don't use any oil when you're cooking rice for me because it gives me diarrhea. So I said okay, and I cooked for her. I did not put any oil in her rice, but I guess maybe it's the naughty side of me. But I said, let me do an experiment. And after she finished eating, I went to her and I said, "Oh, Aunt Daff, I forgot what you told me, and I used oil when I cooked the rice for you. Do you know that lady got up from the dining table and went straight into the toilet and had diarrhea? And there was no oil in her rice, but because of her mind, she believed that there was oil in the rice. She manifested the symptoms of diarrhea, and she had diarrhea.
Yeah.
So that proved to me the power of mind over matter. And we know there is a famous person in this island who a real hypochondriac. Every single thing that's going around, this person will say, "Oh, it's only a matter of time before I get that too." And sure enough, this person gets the symptoms and they develop it. You're telling yourself that if you're basically willing it onto yourself, yes, I am going to get this thing. So your body starts to then manifest that into reality and preparing for this illness. Instead of you telling yourself that no, I am healthy as a horse and I'm not going to get any of this crap, and boosting up your immune system with your own psychology. The people who do the opposite, they weaken their own immune system with their own negative thoughts and thought processes. The power of the mind is another overlooked or underappreciated phenomenon in our lives too.
I 100% agree. I think our own thoughts, we underestimate the power of our own thoughts, and people read a lot of books about it, right? About like how the human brain works. I read a lot of books about it, and people subscribe to a law of attraction and being supernatural. In terms of like instead of like causing an effect, right? And like you can cause an effect by thinking about it. And so I liked that the person that just now talked about. It's like it's only a matter of time, and it puts you in that state of mind, right? Of that you already have it. It's just like it just has to manifest in a way, in its own way, in its own time. But it is going to happen, and I think people are so like the instant gratification is not doing us any good. Nowadays, you can see it in everything. Everything has to be instant. Even I see it in myself as well. That I sometimes have the urge of like I need to buy this thing. I need to have it today, or I need to have this thing done today, or I want to do this today. And it's not always good, that's instant gratification thing. And it, by all means, it's a good thing too. That once you think about something like or wanting to have something, that it takes time to get it. Like otherwise, if it was something like you could do like that, it would it would be very problematic. Like it would be total chaos. So you do. So in that sense, I think patience is a virtue that a lot of people have forgotten.
True.
And that is a virtue. Is something that a lot of people should deploy more, because you get to experience and to see more, and you don't have this always have this because it makes you anxious, like if you don't deploy patience, because spiritually you always on edge, and that cannot be a good thing. Shoot. How are things on the islands? Like, is it like everything okay over there? People, COVID related, of course, but and everything else.
Yeah, well, COVID related, situation is not as dire as in North America or Europe. For example, the COVID has been in Barbados since, was it March last year, and only 15 deaths. So we have like a 99.9% recovery rate, or more, 99.99% recovery rate. So yeah, it's not as terrible as it has been affecting like other countries, but some places are still using drastic measures. Trinidad has locked down its national borders for almost a year already, and no sign of them opening anytime soon. It's not officially, but that really destroyed a lot of business there, because they depended on tourism or imports and exports, and if tourists are now not allowed in, Yeah, anybody who's in tourism industry, basically that was a death knell for their business.
Mm.
So we need to balance, temper down the paranoia, and that's another thing going back to what you had mentioned earlier, which is another reason to be have a healthy but yet somewhat skeptical opinion of everything up to this point, because there's an old, well um, well used tradition of creating a problem and then offering the solution to the problem, which will give the results that you wanted in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
And whenever you use fear as a tool, well, you will get the results that you want. That seems to be the easiest emotion to harness and manipulate is fear. So we have to study everything that's going on in the world today, and I don't think humanity has been at this level of global fear in a very long time. Maybe not since the last pandemic, or maybe, yeah, I don't even think World War II generated as much fear as the current pandemic has done worldwide. So you have to wonder. You can't rule out that there is not um, human involvement in all of this, and study who ends in the long run. Who is going to benefit on the other end of this pandemic? And because we certainly know that we have the technology to tweak any virus that exists for military purposes. So we cannot say it's impossible. It can't be done. Yes, it could be done in any number of labs around the world. So
Hmm.
as I say, I believe, yes, we all know because the common flu is in the COVID family. But if there's a chance that somebody could have tweaked a virus and made it a little more deadly than it naturally was, I think there are unscrupulous people who would do something like that. They'll have their own agendas and reasons for doing so, but I am still not entirely convinced that it is a totally natural, fluke of nature kind of event. I'm still a little
Mm.
bit suspicious as to human involvement somewhere along the line in this whole debacle.
Yeah. So you don't think it's a bat, right? What was it? What's the original story?
May have originated
Bat.
in bats, but it has certain characteristics that seem different to all other known viruses, which you have one source saying no, has been investigated, and there's no sign of human manipulating of the genome sequence of this virus. But then there are others, because of course there's somebody willing to say anything for the right price. So
Hmm.
you can't swear that that one side is telling you the 100% truth or not. We've been deceived many times before. I think everybody alive today can remember when Colin Powell was at the UN holding up papers saying we have proof Saddam Hussein has weapons of
Yeah.
mass destruction.
Anthrax. Yeah.
Yeah, CIA has provided these, with this credible evidence, this incontrovertible proof, and yet we've never found any of that. So we can't be so naive as to think that governments would not lie to us if they have an agenda that they want to implement. That wouldn't be the first time that governments have done that, and that's the
Yeah.
reason why the ruling elites, and I think people are called sheeple for a reason because we naively, like, we can't wrap our minds around the fact that a politician would be so what we do as a word for it. I think they call these people psychopathic,
Mm.
that they would endanger people's lives in order to further their own political agenda. But such people who think like that obviously have never read a history book, because from the beginning of recorded history to now, most of our political leaders, the powerful ones, have been exactly like that. They have no qualms about sending your sons and daughters to fight their wars and die. They wouldn't send their own kids, but
Hmm.
they don't care about yours or mine. So
Yeah.
why do we fool ourselves that these people, have us at heart? I don't blame the troops because they're just following orders. I'm not saying that, like, if you're a death camp guard in Nazi Germany, you can't use the excuse you're only following orders. I mean, you do have a conscience after all, but being sent to Vietnam or being sent to Iraq, they can't blame the American troops for that. They didn't ask to be sent there. They were sent by their government. There's a handful of politicians decide what wars they're going to start, and they have the mostly populations from the lower class that fill the military ranks that have to go and do the dirty work that the elite politicians send them to do. So I would not protest any troops coming home as they did in Vietnam and spitting on them and nonsense like that. These people are not to blame. It was the politicians who sent them to fight a war they had no right starting in the first place that should be accountable, not the troops who were drafted, because those guys were all conscripted too. They literally had no choice. They were told they had to go. So why do you blame them for? And it's not every GI that killed civilians and raped civilians and did atrocities over there. It's a minority who do things like that. So you cannot paint all the members of the armed forces with a broad brush and condemn them all as being their child killers and monsters. I think that was really going to an extreme, and that caused a lot of the post-traumatic stress issues that American GIs from Vietnam had.
Mhm.
You're there against your will, fighting a nasty war that you didn't want to fight. Then you come home and people treat you like garbage, and how was that supposed to help those guys psychologically? No wonder so many of them committed suicide or just went crazy.
Yeah.
So I think the way society treated them is more to blame than anything that they may or may not have done in a war over there. War is a dirty, brutal thing. There are atrocities committed on both sides. They had no right to be there in the first place, but they had no choice either. The Americans were conscripted to fight that war. So I don't blame them for the ills of it. It's the politicians who are to blame.
Yeah, like sometimes you watch when was it? I can't remember which one. Probably the Black Lives Matter. No, something else. Not that, but it's not some protest that like the protesters wanted to were yelling at the soldiers and like well, you should stand with your people and you should turn around, you should not do this. But these guys are men and women are so drilled in following orders, so they're just following orders. And so I think it's something that I kind of realized, or that I saw it. I was like, yeah, like it is. Yeah, you can in those protests, and that it is. Yeah, you see them standing, but they're following orders, and then there's this hierarchy that's been drilled into them from day one, so that it's you as a protester that just I don't know, just put on your shoes and your shirts and whatnot, and you just went to a protest. Like I don't think, like you should not have that illusion that you could convince that person, that soldier, to change its mind, actually change its thought. So
All right.
it is, and yeah, it is. How do we get to this? I don't know. I can't remember how we got to this. I got to this particular topic, but it is, yeah. Even here, over there in Holland right now, it's lockdown, curfew, and like people are now yelling like, "Oh, bring in the army," because like they see those numbers going up, and they think, well, and they see these protests against the curfew, and there's some idiots. There are some idiots that are throwing rocks at destroying property and shops and everything else. Those are the idiots.
Yeah.
Because people need to be able to protest things. That's what I believe. But because it's on the news and you see those people throwing rocks, and people immediately have this judge them, and so well, yeah, you see police can't handle this, bring in the army, bring in the military. And if there's one thing that I'd like to press upon people is like, you do not want the involvement of the military, because the military is an aggressive force. Like there's no reason, there's no ability to negotiate with them. It's either their way or the highway. And but it is, people think that think very lightly of military involvement, but militarism coming from indigenous peoples, and just ask the regular indigenous peoples that live under military occupation. Like they know what it is. Like you don't want that. You definitely do not want that.
Right.
But people like in the Western world, particularly in Europe right now, they're like, oh yeah, send in the army because the police can't handle this. Dude, like you do not want the involvement of the army, because once you open up that you activate the army, there's little to no say that you can have over them as mayors or governments and everything else. So I don't know. It's still don't know how we got onto this topic though. Yeah. And is there anything that we forgot to cover? Because we're coming to the. I think we talked about a lot of things actually.
Yeah.
Karma.
I guess we can touch more on the science fiction topic. Another thing that I found had a lot of truth to impart to people was like the Jedi part of Star Wars with the Yoda's sayings. Yoda's sayings are actually, if you forget about a little green puppet saying them and you just look at them on paper, they're actually very true. Where fear leads to anger, leads to hate, leads to death and destruction, and all these sayings are very spiritual. I guess George Lucas wanted to insert some spirituality in his science fiction. But those sayings are pretty wise. But then going back to the old souls and young souls thing, that's something that everybody can remember, and it will help you. It's a common knowledge, really, when you realize that every human being you see that is screwing up big time is a young soul, and every human being you see that is helping to help things get better big time is an old soul. It's an easy distinction. Basically, from what I have learned, the average is like 200 lifetimes per person before going from now starting on this school for the soul journey to when you no longer have to return. You can if you want to, but you have already spiritually progressed enough, learned enough lessons in 200 lifetimes that you don't need to return or reincarnate anymore. If you want to, you can for specific reasons, but I say you don't have to. For example, Donald Trump and Biden, both of them have reincarnated less than 50 times. So they are still in the category of young souls. That girl, Greta Thunberg, she is reincarnated over 167 times. So she is an old soul. And she's not going to be with us for long. She's not going to live to be elderly, but she came for a reason to spur people's thoughts in a more sustainable environmental direction. Because
hold on, how do you measure that?
Well, there's interactions with the spirit world. That's where I get all my answers from.
Right.
And so people can dismiss that or laugh at that, but I investigate myself. I ask questions. What are they saying way that I'm told in advance when somebody's going to die, and they do die. So at least for people who know me, my track record is not an airy fairy one. But so I ask questions about everybody. But that's the easy way to tell when somebody is. So when you see people screwing up, oh shit, this is a young soul. That's why they don't really know what they're doing. They're still fumbling and bungling, and that's why they're majorly screwing up. So in a way, you can understand them instead of being perplexed or dismissing them as they're just an idiot or this person is just evil. No, they're still learning the ropes. They really don't know what they're doing yet. So that's why they talk a lot of crap or they do a lot of crap. So in one sense, you have to not so much forgive them or exonerate them, but it helps you to understand why this person is saying and doing the things they're doing. So for me, it was easier to realize that. because if you didn't have that filter or that context to put people in, the actions that some people on the tape would really perplex you. But when you realize that, I've seen, I now realize this person is a young soul, so they have to come back many more times, and they're going to get better each time. They're going to move away from ignorance and go towards understanding and doing the right thing more and more. So there's hope for them yet. There's no such thing as a lost cause or hopeless human being. You may utterly screw up in this lifetime, but there's hope for you yet. You can come again and again and again and improve until you get to the point where you need to be, where you have more of a comprehensive spiritual understanding of everything that life entails, whether at the energetic, spiritual level or the physical level. So that helps you to be a understanding person and be less judgmental, less condemning of people, and you realize that they just started on their journey, and so they're going to make tons of mistakes. So you have to try and correct them if you can. You may go to extremes, and the only way to stop them doing negative things is to literally end their life. Like, for example, with Hitler, he was a young soul too, but the only way you couldn't reason with him and stop him, or at least nobody had the option to do that. He was at a point where he was so destructive, you had to end his life in order to stop what he was doing.
Yeah.
So once you understand that, you sort of a more appreciation of what's going on in the world and why certain things happen.
Yeah. Man, I learned a lot. And this too, especially like this old soul, young soul thing, because it makes you not only, definitely be less judgmental about people, put things in perspective as well. And if you put it that way, that the age of people from the likes like Biden and Greta Thunberg, for example, it puts things into a certain perspective. That's interesting.
You could put it basically in four eras. From first incarnation to your 50th, you're ego-driven and you're totally self-absorbed. From your 51st to your 99th, you start to realize that my ego is a problem for me, and you gradually sort of try and get control over that. So by the time you, from your 100th to your 149th incarnations, you have more control of your ego than you ever did. But from your 150th to your 200, then you have totally eliminated ego being in control of you, and you are in control of ego. So you'll find those people to be more humble, wise, wisdom teachers, and people like Buddha and Jesus and all these people. They were on that coming to the end of the incarnation period, so they had made all the mistakes in previous bodies and progressed and realized, it's like I guess so. It's all there's hope for all of us. We're all gonna get there one day. Even the ones that go just 150 more lifetimes for Trump, and he's gonna be a wise person. everybody's gonna love what he has to say. It wouldn't be Donald Trump, but the soul that was in Donald Trump in the body of a jackass. No, but he'll be in the body. He'll be in the body of a wise, respected person, male or female, who knows, but it's going to be a while yet before we get to that point.
Right. That's interesting. The reincarnation thing. And is that like general universal reincarnation knowledge or wisdom, or is that just the how should I put it? Like, is it this like general principles of reincarnation, like the 1 to 49, 49, 99, and then and so forth? Yeah. Oh,
okay.
General
principles.
Yeah, I.
One thing I want to mention is where I think in Hinduism they believe you can reincarnate as a cockroach or a rat, depending on if you were rotten in this life, you're gonna come back as a lower life form as punishment. Well, I personally have found that to be true. But I mean, there are literally millions of people who believe that to be so. But from what I'm told, a human being could only incarnate as a human being. We can we can manipulate other life forms for good or bad. If, they can manipulate a bird or to bring a message to a loved one or a butterfly or a dog or whatever. You can manipulate the
Hmm.
life forms to play that role for you, but you're not gonna actually inhabit the bodies of other life forms. Souls only go into human bodies. But every animal, every plant, they also have a spirit component. They're spirit and material. So the plants do have spirits, the animals do have spirits, but they don't have souls. Only human beings have souls. So that's something we need to understand. My dad didn't really believe in animals having spirits because he grew up devout Catholic and they were taught they didn't understand the difference between soul and spirit, number one. And number two, then they taught that only humans have spirits. So they didn't really get the message across correctly. We had puppies. Our dog had puppies here, and they all died from the parvo virus. Now,
Mm.
dad had come home from work one day, drove into the driveway, and he came inside, talking to my brother. He was a little annoyed. He said, I told you guys to put the puppies up in the back room. I nearly ran over them. They were playing in the driveway. And my brother and I just looked at each other, and then we looked at dad and said, Dad, we buried the last puppy this morning. They all died in the night. The last one lived till about sunrise and then died, but they're all buried already. He
Mm.
saw their spirits playing in the driveway. They were
Mm.
happy. They were free of their diseased bodies, and they were happy and healthy, and just enjoying, what they were doing when they were in the physical bodies for maybe the last time before they moved on to ether. But so that the dad seeing with his own eyes the spirits of animals that were already dead, then he realized that they do have spirits to animals as well. So that's just a one example.
Huh. Okay. Man, I learned a lot today. Like, yeah, because what people don't know is that usually when Damon and I talk, like we talk about no, not loftier things, but like yeah, but like more like uh but we don't talk about the spiritual things often, and I know for certain that in terms of spirituality and the perspectives of spirituality a lot throughout the indigenous world that I haven't even scratched the surface.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is super interesting actually. I mean, definitely want to learn more about everything that you said. So I don't know, just maybe I'll ask some other people to explain it to
Yeah.
me from their own perspective.
As another mistake religious people make too is believing that God, omnipotent God, creator of the universe, is gonna literally take their side in some petty squabble or disagreement with somebody else. Now
Mm.
The Apaches are very wise, and they call God Usin, and they have a saying that Usin does not involve itself with the petty affairs of men. So they would never, oh God, please strike my enemies dead, and he's making my life miserable. No, God is not going to get involved with your stupidness.
Mm.
You deal with your own issues. He's not going to come and fight your battles for you either.
Yeah.
God helps those who help themselves. You make an effort to solve your problem, and you may have spiritual helpers that will be assigned to you to help you succeed if what you're doing is for your higher good and the higher good of others. If you're if what you're trying to do is to the detriment of yourself or others, you're not going to get any higher vibrational entity assisting you. You may attract a lower vibrational entity assisting you because they want to then herd you into their ambit of influence.
Yeah.
But there is that duality in the world. There are higher vibrational entities that serve the light and lower vibrational entities that serve the darkness. But anytime you belong to a spirituality or religion that teaches you it is okay to spiritually retaliate against people who are sending negativity towards you, putting spells, hex curses, whatever you want to call it, on you. If they teach you that yes, we can retaliate, we're going to do harm back to them, that is not any spirituality or religion that serves the light. From
Mm.
what I am involved with, that is a taboo. We are never to lower ourselves to the level of people who serve the darkness. Most I would do is stop or block something that's being sent to some innocent person and try to send love and light to the person who's sending it so that it will return to their original state of being a good soul and not being involved in these kind of things. But they went astray somewhere in this life, and that's why they're doing these things to make ego again, making them feel powerful. I can hurt this person by just using my evil thoughts on them, or
Mm.
sending demonic entities to their home or something. And that makes your ego is so stupid. It makes you feel powerful. Like if you're achieving something good, yeah, people are afraid of me. I feel mighty now.
Yeah.
That's inferior thinking. And a righteous person or right-minded, right-thinking person would never want anybody to fear them, or or hate them. You would just want everybody to live fair and act fair, treat each other like brothers and sisters. That would what would give you joy, not having any kind of imaginary power over anybody else.
Right.
So, so that's another issue too.
Okay. Any oh man, this is a lot of information to digest. Any final thoughts? Because otherwise, we'll go beyond the 3 hour mark, and your wife will probably kill you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
as you said, as you brought up wife, let me make the final thoughts about wives then.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Relationships. Yeah, no, yeah, I've been married 28 years. We had 5 kids together. The first daughter, died as a baby, 3 days old, and for half of the time, when a child is lost early in a marriage, for some reason, marriages end up failing. But yeah, now that's something indigenous values have come into play in our lives all the time. Where yeah, we have arguments regularly. There's not like a bed of roses for this whole, unless the roses still had thorns on them. Well, then it's been a bed of roses, yeah. But it's not been perfect and without problems. But we always come back to the point of not drawing a little circle around me, or she not drawing a circle around her, saying no, we got married, we made children together, so our circle has to be around us and our kids.
Mm.
And we had good relationship with our parents, so our circle has to include our parents. We had good relationships with our siblings, so our circle has to include our siblings too. So it's a big circle. So you do not just do something that, oh, I feel this is the right decision for me. I'm going to separate from this person because we argue too much, or I don't like the cooking, or they have a bad habit that they wouldn't change, or whatever. No, that's the quick fix thinking,
Mm.
the ego talking to you there. And the soul would not tell you to do that, because you're going to affect the lives of those children. Or they may have problems in their own adult lives, in their marriages, when they saw their own parents' marriage fail, or their parents fighting like cats and dogs and hitting each other and cursing each other. So you have to be mindful of all of that. Your behavior is not just something in the moment. It has
Mm.
repercussions that go out for eternity. Your children are going to, just like how I remember my father and mother never having any kind of, they never even cursed each other. Mom never hit dad, dad never hit mom. They never even used foul language against each other. So all of that, same way I remember that for all my life. Now, when you beat your wife, or you curse your wife, or you're habitually having an affairs, and children know about these things, they're never going to forget that either. So
Mm.
you're either building them up to have constructive relationships with their own spouses in the future, or laying the groundwork for all kind of problems so that they will have destructive relationships and fail ones, just like you, the example that you set for them. So we always come back to this point of, look, let's work on our problems. This is something that you don't like, and this is something I don't like. Let's have a middle ground. Let's come together. Let's work this out. A family is a team, and it's not one person has the say over everything. So that is something lacking in most Western marriages, is the willingness to resolve problems amicably and try again, compromise. That is the
Yeah.
reason why most Western marriages fail.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they're easy to throw in the towel. That is what we see. Yeah. Right. You have a wonderful marriage and amazing kids. I met two of them.
Yeah.
Still haven't visited you on your island yet, so or in hopefully anytime soon we can either I can visit you in your neck of the woods, or we can do this conversation entirely in person. So that would be cool. Had these long hotel room nights and chats and everything. That's what we usually do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, man, Damon, for chatting. And books. Promote your books a little bit.
All right. Well, if anybody interested in the kind of spirituality and topics that we glossed over today, as well as anomalous phenomena and things from myth and legend, because I believe there's a grain of truth in everything. It just may be misinterpreted or taken out of context in some way. Those two books, Understanding Spirituality and Life Lessons, they're all ebooks. There are no hard copies available. I think Gazali may put the link below here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Those cover those kind of issues, and then if you're interested in Arawakan indigenous culture, there's the book Lokono-Arawaks, which is the only book that was done phonetically to reveal the language how it should sound, instead of, because remember our language was never written. It was just always verbal. So I did it in a phonetic way that anybody could pronounce words correctly. And that gives you insight into all of our traditions and cultures and spirituality. It's everything except a dictionary of your language. That's a separate book that I'm working on now. But everything else that you need to know as a good introduction and basic start into re-understanding your own Arawakan ancestry, if you're Taino descent or Kalinago descent or Lokono-Arawak, it's a book for you or academics who are interested in that, in our culture. Then the other one was with the myths and legends of our culture. Nobody ever recorded them all into one book before, so that's also available, and it makes good reading if you're a family that likes to read to younger kids and spark their mind as to things of a spiritual or supernatural or mystery creatures kind of vibe. So a lot of parents like that book for that reason as well. What was so it's 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yes, and the other book, The Amazon is Burning. That's kind of a tell-all book about 25 years of vigilante activities that I have done over the years in Latin America in defense of indigenous peoples, because I was the kind of person that I never had a fear of authority. But there were people who, if a mother or father comes to you and their daughter is being held against her will in some child prostitution ring, and the police in that town or the military are on the payroll of the traffickers, there's nobody there to help you. So you need to have people that are willing to break the laws of men in order to uphold the laws of God and do what is right. And so I was lucky to have trustworthy, knowledgeable people around me. I've never been in military, but a lot of indigenous military veterans were with me, and we were able to help kids and people in those kind of situations that regular police could not have helped them, because they were actually part of the problem in different countries. So the only thing I did not mention is the exact geographical place names. So there's no way any country could put me in court for doing X, Y, or Z within their borders. So the incidents are related, but not the locations of the incidents. So it's open to any government to wonder, or where was I when I did this thing with these other people, but nothing could be proven now. So it was a safe way of revealing sensitive information.
Yeah.
But, so that sort of, anybody who likes a hint of scandal and drama would enjoy that book.
Well, the cover art is your wife holding a so people can recognize it not only by the title, but his wife is on the cover as well,
holding an AK-47.
Holding an AK-47. So minor detail. Yeah. So yeah, they're available. I think I got a seat now on Apple Books. You can get it. They're all ebook versions. Unfortunately, the hand sanitizer thing you cannot get. Like they're not shipping. Amazon,
Yeah.
Alibaba, whatever. But you definitely get the ebooks. They're super interesting.
And they
So
raised the price too.
it's gonna, as of now, it's gonna raise the price. Nah, yeah, I don't know. Like, what is it?
They're all from $4.99 to there's only
Right.
one that's $9.99, but about $5 for pretty much all the others.
Yeah, so that's like 2 cans of Sprite.
Yeah.
You know, like so better like lay away the rest of the money for an ebook and then 2 cans of Sprite or 3 cans. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let you go now. Thank you so much, Damon, for sharing all your knowledge, and have a good day. And we'll talk later. We'll definitely talk later on other stuff as well. All right. Have a good one, man.
Thank you
All
for
right,
inviting
thank you.
me.
Oh no, thank you.